Finger Lakes Speedworld 2018. It has been a rough morning already, to say the least. This is going to be one of the more interesting episodes that we have, given everything that has transpired here in the last 48 hours. Huge snowstorm, as we alluded to on Thursday. The bombogenesis, overtaking the polar vortex lingo from last year, affecting things a little bit. But I tell you what, everybody, despite the travel ban that was put in place for Cuba County, which is the county with which Auburn city sits in, that was not lifted until late yesterday afternoon.
I was wondering, I will say that, overall we have quite a few cars here, so it seems like most of the people made it. I'm not going to say that everybody made it, but it seems like most of the people made it here. And I will say that part of the thruway is still closed, so when I was driving out here this morning, they were making trucks and buses get off at exit 15, so that's certainly still not open. So yeah, I guess it was a little bit worse out here than what we got. It was
rough yesterday. My dad works at Bass Pro Shops, and he left Waterloo at 4:30 in the morning to get to work on time. And between Freebridge and Auburn, 5 and 20 hadn't been plowed at all at that point. Geez. So he was doing some tough navigation. They opened the store nonetheless, and that's why on Thursday night they had started allowing cars to come in. The cars that were coming in were stationed in the empty storefronts. So as we kind of worked around last night during setup, it's like, wow, there's not a lot here. But they've all emptied the storefronts. They started allowing cars to empty the storefronts again after 9 o'clock last night, and then they had more time from 7 until 9 this morning. Some additional cars came and helped fill everything out. They've got everything stretched out, and this mall is full. Yeah, it is full. I have to say that I was a little concerned with the weather, and I saw your message, I think it was last night, that you shared on my timeline about the show, and I was a little concerned that the mall was going to be very sparse because of the weather. And then I walked in and walked the whole mall, and it's full from one end to the other. And there's some really, really nice stuff here. There's some nice stuff here, and I like it's a little bit more organized. Up at the top end of the mall is where the NASCAR car is. It's out of sight. Nobody wants to see that anyway. All joking aside, Watkins Glen has worked together with Finger Lakes Speedworld and brought one of Kyle Busch's cars that he used at Watkins Glen. So that's up there at the camper retailer. Down a little bit from there, a couple Derby cars. A lot of the Derby cars didn't come out because of the weather yesterday. Yeah. And then the weather yesterday made it hard for them to get their trailers out. Right. So then at that point, we lost a lot of those, but that allowed Ed Brewster to move up to the front of the room. So the RC Derby registration, that's already open. That's going to be happening at 1 o'clock today, just a fun run. Outside of that door is a huge contingent of Syracuse Mike Rod Club. Yep. Move down a little bit from that, and we've got Paradise Speedway. Yep. Then center court is packed. There's a bunch of sprint cars. Then we come down to the drag racing wing, which is where we're set up. You can see behind us, this is a brand new car. The owner hasn't even seen it yet. Right. So that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, the big unveiling that we sort of had mapped out for happening today, it didn't come to pass. But well wishes to the owner, Tickle, as they call him. And then you see, I know Tickle's first name is Dave, but I don't know Dave's last name. But I do know at least his first name is Dave. But yeah, my understanding is that Dave has had some health issues. He's still battling, and certainly best wishes to him. But you know, when he sees his car, I think he's going to be very, very pleased because it's really, really nice. He won't recognize it. From a couple of stories I've heard this morning, I would say that is true, that he probably will not recognize the car when he sees it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it needed to be not recognized. Right. That's the story that I heard too. The car was dropped off. Bill Stevens, you can clearly see his name hanging out truck. Right. Don't move, I'm about to point to it. Right, it's not working. Bill Stevens in the window of the Dodge pickup truck. This car was behind us, was dropped off to him and said, make this a race car. Right. It's already a race car, make it better. And they were looking at some of the cuts on the roll cages. They're looking at some of the welds. Some of the welds were half done. Some of them were tacked together. It was not a car that Bill felt was safe to take down the track. Right. And justifiably so. So they went through and they redid everything. Yeah. I mean, this car is lower than it was. If you open up the doors, you can see inside that it's got all new floors, all new tunnels. There goes Ed Brewster right there. Ed, you looking for me? I would say Ed Brewster, Demolition Derby RC extraordinaire. What's up? They just happen to be walking down the show. He's set up down at the other end of the mall with his bodies in the demo derby area. So got something to tend to at the moment. We'll get him on the show later. He's heading down to he's got RC cars up there that are trying to register. Yep. And he's heading down to the RC shop at the opposite end of the mall. Oh, right. To go buy parts that he can turn around and mark up on his own and sell it there, I would assume, right?
It's why not?
Free market.
That's right. That's right. Hey, if you told me that, hey, I could buy something down at the hobby shop at one end of the mall, or I can stay where I'm at and pay $1 more for it all the way at the end of the mall, I'll pay the extra buck and save me the walk.
He's touring right now, going around and checking out all the cars. He's the one that has the Traxxas tree. We were talking with some of the RC guys yesterday. There's a lot of people that are into making time passes, so I think that's starting to gain some momentum for next year. If it's worth looking 364 and a half days into the future for Finger Lakes Speedworld 2019, then looks like that is on deck. But
well,
yeah,
I will say that I will definitely be into making passes for sure.
You got to bring those lowered cars that you got, those Custom Works cars.
Oh right, yeah, those might actually work pretty well. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm definitely looking forward to trying that out, and I guess won't get into it a lot because nobody wants to hear the boring story. But my finger should be healed 364 days from now, so I'll be able to grip an RC controller and make some passes.
When I was working at Lakeland, there was a guy that did basically the same thing, and the auger ran right down the center of his finger.
Yep.
And it was bad.
So I guess since we're getting into it, I'll tell everybody how stupid I was that I stuck my hand inside of a snowblower. So don't stick your hand inside of a snowblower, and it won't try and chop your finger off. And I was told yesterday that when the registered nurse was checking me out, he's like, "You did this with a snowblower?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "You are so lucky." He goes, "This is the best injury I've ever seen with a snowblower." He goes, "Most cases it takes their finger right off." So I got kind of lucky from that standpoint, but lucky was still not fun. Fingers broken and a whole bunch of other stuff to it. So yeah, don't stick your hands on a running snowblower.
Did anybody see the injury yet? On the air? Did anybody see it? Because it's basically the best finger to mess up.
Yeah, well, I say it's possible. At one point I went to point, so somebody probably recognized what the heck is up with his finger. But yeah, it was ugly. Funny story. My wife, when I heard it, my wife was running away from me in the driveway, screaming, "Get away from me, get away from me," because she didn't want to see it. She's like, "You can drive yourself to the hospital." I'm like, "No, I think I could use a ride, actually." But yeah, she didn't want to see it. It was pretty nasty looking yesterday. I will say, after the doctor took care of it and did all their things to it, then she would look at it. But beforehand, she didn't want to see it. But
I can't blame her.
Yeah, no.
I would try to help, but you're gonna have to keep that covered up.
Yeah. It wasn't pretty, but yeah. So, anyways, I'm looking forward to having my finger healed so I can grip an RC controller and make some passes. I mean, we talked about me potentially, doing the RC Derby as well, and I didn't think about that until this morning. It's like, yeah, that's out. I don't know how the heck I would do that, but I'll be an interested spectator in the RC Derby.
So as we told everybody, we're going to try and get a little bit more of the history on some of the cars that are here. Bill Stevens is back there. Haynes Brothers Racing is here. Mike's here. Unfortunately, Scott couldn't make it because the engine in the Chevelle had something go wrong in the valve train.
Oh, really?
At some point last year. So he's in the process of redoing the motor in that, which, it's got to be done.
Right.
Why better? When better than now?
Right.
So we come out of center court with all the sprint cars. We got the drag racing wing here. Then you go down a little bit further. There's some pulling tractors, and then the RC track down there. So yeah, I mean it's full.
Yeah, and I have to say that honestly, not to say that you couldn't fit a few more cars in here. You obviously could, right? I mean, right past kind of where we are, there's a spot where you could probably fit a car. I guess if you got down towards JCPenney, you could stuff some more cars down there. But again, it's full here. So I mean, it's not like you would feel like, oh yeah, we really, really need to have more cars here, because it really is full. There's a lot to look at, and I will say I don't live in this area, so I don't know how busy this mall is, but from the stories that I've heard, it generally isn't that busy, and there's a fair amount of foot traffic here today.
Yeah, it's also kind of neat that South Butler Nostalgia Dragway, they've got a video playing of some of the footage from last year.
Yes.
You can see right there the El Camino and the El Camino and the Galaxy.
Right.
Sitting side by side. There's a Camaro over here as well. And we're going to get a good look at that right now. Look over it. It's the pulling tractor as well. You see that back there in the...
Yep, pulling tractors. There's a Camaro, and you can see the table set up there with videos that they're showing from South Butler, which at some point today I definitely want to go over and watch some of those, because
there's been a lot of Mopars going through.
I don't know. I've seen pictures, but I don't know that I've actually watched anybody really going down the track. So if I happen to be distracted here today, it's probably because I'm looking across the way and
you're hypnotized by the nostalgia drag racing cars.
Yep.
Behind us, Bill Stevens. He's in the blue hat. And he's talking with. It looks like my dad. I think that's.
Is it your dad?
Yeah, I think so. Mark Marquardt's going around taking a bunch of photos for everybody here. So it's what do we got? You got that back there? There we go. That's Bill. Bill and Mark talking to each other back there. Bill's going to come in and talk with us a little bit about his truck. He's got new paint on that Dodge pickup that he's got, and got to talk with him a little bit about that vehicle. There are still original Dodge parts
on that
from
car?
a Ram on that. The taillights.
Yeah.
And there's only one way to know if the taillights work.
Okay.
If you're behind it.
Yeah.
At the finish line.
Right.
The lenses in the front are SAE parts.
Okay.
It's still got the stamp in it. And the center section in the back is a Dana 60.
Oh. I would say it's a cool looking truck for sure. And
great looking truck.
I mean, it was pretty when it was purple. I forget what did he say? Mango.
Go Mango?
Glow Mango, yes.
Go Mango.
Go Mango.
You are a little too Chevy for this conversation.
Oh yeah. So I guess that's
it's not Hugger Orange. It's Go Mango. There's a difference.
So yes, I guess that's a Mopar stock color. So yeah, it's Go Mango, and he said it was a Lexus silver on the bottom, but it's nice. I like the way he painted the hat too, the injector hat, to match the body. It's cool.
As if I understand my information correctly, that's a blown 525 Hemi.
5 or 6?
I thought it was 5. From the information I got yesterday, we'll ask him when as soon as he's done. As soon as he's done signing autographs and kissing babies back there, he'll make his way over. In the interim, maybe leave that alone for just a second. We're gonna try and get the guys from South Butler. That's how we coordinate things right there. Oh God.
Can you make it?
Yeah.
Bring that microphone right over in front of you so we can hear what
We
you're talking about.
We figured we'd make it a little easier rather than make you put headset on. We just give you a microphone and
that's all right. That's all right.
I would say we'll pull that. I would say I know how I am, and you look like you're just like me. I have a tendency to look at Chris when I'm talking to him, so we'll bring the microphone over a little bit in front of you so everybody can hear you.
That's fine.
So how you guys been?
Good. How about you?
Yeah, I can't. Well, this aside, I can't complain too much. It's.
Did you show that to the wrong person at the wrong time?
Yes, I did. It was funny, cause a funny story too. Yesterday, when I was having it X-rayed yesterday, the X-ray technician's like, "Yeah, take your finger and kind of stick it out." I'm like, like how? And she's like, fold your other fingers down. I'm like, oh, like literally, I'm giving somebody the finger. She's like, yeah, just like that.
Wow. Wow, that's too bad.
So I got to give the X-ray the machine the finger yesterday, and now it's nice and prominent.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Early on in your Speedworld experience for this year, how have things been? It looks like there's been a lot of attention on the 3 cars.
Yeah. Well, I think we wanted to get 2 more here, but the weather wasn't cooperating.
Right.
Everybody, gassers were going to have 5. We had some more derby cars that were supposed to be at the top of the hill.
It's too bad, but
it's what it is. But I mean, the mall still, if you had a chance to walk it, it's still pretty full.
I've been up and down one time. That's it. It looked good.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a fair bunch of cars here, and so all these 3 cars here, I'm assuming are all South Butler competitors.
Yep. Actually, that's Don Lefevre's car. He doesn't really race it, but he's one of the sponsors, and he comes down. He has other cars that he brings and races.
Okay.
Which one's yours?
I don't have mine here. I'm still working on that.
The Camaro seems like it's been getting more attention than anything right now, just because it's so original.
It does. Yep. That's Bill's car. He's the president. So.
Oh, he's the president of South Butler?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's his car. He's had that since new.
Bought that thing new.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have him come over and tell us some stories about that car. That's
Hey, you might have to twist his arm. He's not.
Yeah.
a little camera shy.
Yeah.
We were waving over, and you're the only one that even thought about getting
everybody else is ducking and running for cover.
Well, I've been here before, so it's not.
Yeah,
not
you know what the drill is. But this season, still looking at.
What? No, we're on TV now.
Yeah.
Still looking at a 4-race schedule for next year.
Yes, we are.
And has the schedule already been put into place?
Yes, it has.
I say so.
We have them right over there.
Okay, that's good. So one a month, starting in June.
June.
Okay.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought you'd want to start in May. It's just too iffy. Unless you start late May, it ends up being too iffy in May around here.
Yeah, you're starting late June this year. After school gets out, June the 24th. Basically, I think for most of the districts in the area, that's the first weekend that they're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, we head on to the July 29th date, August 26th, and then September 30th. You're still doing the following Sunday for rain dates as well?
Yes. Yes.
What's the plan this year for any special recognitions or celebrations? This is 60 years for the track.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
No, I don't know. There's nothing really big planned, but we're still working on that. We might do something. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. You got to do something.
Absolutely. 60 years is.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
The rumor was they were doing a 10,000 win race, but it's just what.
Probably Bitcoins or something.
I say it'd be about 1 Bitcoin, I think, these days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We did raise the year this year. The cutoff year is 90 now instead of 88. So
Oh, okay.
raise it up 2 years. Maybe we'll get some more. Especially in the street.
So some of those rear-wheel drive, those conversion like the Cutlass Sierras and stuff, if those are kicking around, some of the Grand Ams, it might be early enough to where you can start getting into some of those.
Yeah, we're getting close to that age. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, you'll get a couple more Mustangs out there. Obviously,
Yeah,
right?
there's already talk. There's some guys that got some Fox Body Mustangs that they've got built up, and just because of the year limitation, they didn't come, but now they will.
Right. Yeah, so that's cool. That's a good idea. I guess really when you're doing the nostalgia type of series like this, you really have to kind of always up that year as time goes on, right?
Right.
I know that for a while out at Lancaster with the Sunday Niagara event that they had, for a while it was like 1970 was the year, 70 and before, but I mean 1970 now, I mean you're talking about cars that are close to 50 years old, right?
That's right.
So I mean,
True.
I know for old guys like myself, you think 1980 wasn't that long ago,
No,
but you're
know.
talking about a car that's 40 years old at this point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so certainly having 1990, again, you're talking about a 30-year-old vehicle.
Right. Yeah, it is.
It's crazy when you think about it. And I think
they don't seem old to me, but they.
Exactly. I'm not interested in them being nostalgia.
Yeah, and I think the official is a car becomes an antique. I think when it's 25 years old.
25 years older, yeah.
So I mean that seems crazy to me.
Yeah,
it is.
A 1990 Mustang is an
I know,
antique.
an antique.
Come on.
I know. Don't sound right.
What's antique about that?
I know.
When you're old, it doesn't seem that antique, but I guess it tells you a lot about us and how antique we are.
1981 should be the cutoff for any vintage, nostalgia, antique, whatever. Period. Right?
Because everything before 81 was junk, or
no? Because
everything after 81 was junk.
No, I was born in 82.
Oh, okay, all right, I got you.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there was definitely some cool cars that still came out in the early 80s. I realized most of them weren't that exciting, but yeah, there were some cool cars for sure that still came out.
No, but the good thing is there's a lot of them.
Charger?
Yes, yeah, that was the Mitsubishi. That was a fantastic vehicle.
I want to be.
Yeah. They should be ashamed of themselves. Whoever it was, I guess Iacocca was probably CEO of Chrysler at the time.
He made great decisions. I'm not going to take that away from him because on one hand, yes.
Oh, he saved the company for sure.
Yeah, he saved the company, but on one hand, we were stuck with the misery of that Mitsubishi Dodge Charger thing.
Yeah.
But without that happening, the yin to its yang, we would never have had a minivan.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I will say you don't see a lot of drag cars out there, but I mean, let's be honest. The K car was a massive success, right?
Remember the Volare Roadrunner?
Oh yeah. Not something that I'd really want to drive today, but hey, kudos to them for making good business decisions, I guess.
Arrows. Remember the Arrows?
So Eric McRowley's got.
That's the only reason I know what an Arrow is.
Yeah, I was saying, I think this is an 80. 80? I think it's an 80. which if anybody's looking for a great car, I don't know if he still wants to sell it or not, but that's a great car, a great working car.
You can't tell me that the drag racing world is immune from every other type of motorsport where if somebody walks up with the right size check, everything is for sale.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. On a completely different sports subject, I was reading an article about the NFL draft, and they were combines this week, and they were talking to the Cleveland Browns owner or general manager, and he was saying that I'd be open to trading the first round draft pick, and it's like, well, of course you would. I mean,
sure.
anybody that's reasonable will always be listening to open for offers, right?
Sure.
Yeah, if someone wants to come up and offer me $1 million for my Corvette, I'd have a really, really hard time telling them to go away.
Money talks.
Right. So,
a lot of them bodies, though, got used on Pro Stock cars.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah, and actually, Chris found, was it a Lincoln? I don't know if it was a Lincoln. There's a yellow. It was yellow and white back from those days, and it was...
I found two. I found the Lincoln that we shared the picture of, and then I found a 1983 Imperial. Remember the picture of the Imperial that I sent you?
Really?
Oh, why don't I remember the Imperial?
Because it's a Mopar.
No, that's probably that could be. Yeah, that could be. But yeah, there's some definitely. I mean, again, you go back to that era, the '80s cars. I mean, the early '80s, the Malibus. I mean, those are super popular drag cars these days. The '78 to '80, what is it, '82 Malibu, super popular.
Yep.
But then you get into the Grand Prix and. Some of the Oldsmobiles of that same vintage. I mean, they're neat looking cars as drag cars.
They are. The Monte Carlos.
Yeah, the Monte Carlos, right. Yeah, they're real neat. I always like, I don't know what it is, the square lines on those things just make it look cool.
Those mid-80s, like Grand National
Yeah,
Starbucks.
yeah.
Those are cool looking cars.
And a lot of those, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, they're cheap.
They are cheap.
Yep, they're cheap and they work great. I think those are probably the last of the vehicles that still had full frames in them, right?
Right.
Which makes them really, really great drag cars. So you can, or back half cars, I guess, because you can use the original stock frame and back half it from there and have yourself a nice and expensive drag car.
Sure.
I would say definitely got to hear about that Camaro. That's pretty amazing that he's had that since new.
Yeah, I think it had one paint job way back, but other than that, it's.
So now does Bill race that at the events when?
Well, he has someone else drive it.
Okay.
Because he's busy doing other things.
Yeah, and that's where I was kind of going with that. I was curious. It's like, how's he?
Sometimes he'll take it down the strip, but most likely someone else will drive it for him.
Right.
So you said you are working on a car?
I don't have anything. I got a couple things I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Maybe in the works. But, yeah.
Fords, I assume?
Absolutely.
Absolutely with a smile?
Yes. I believe blue. So.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
I would say if you do that, then you could, run the... Well, if you do a Mustang, I guess you could run the Mom series. So did we ever hear...
We got to reopen those talks. We just got busy with the first legs of our season.
I
just
think
like
if I
everybody
was
else
go to the Fox Body platform, I'd go to like a Fairmont.
Yeah.
A Futuro.
Okay.
I always like the looks of that.
Yeah. Those are neat cars. I would say, do you? I guess, have you thought about? Yeah, this is definitely the very first thing that I'm going to build.
I'm back and forth. I really want to do something older. I mean, I want to do something like maybe a '64 Fairlane or a '64 Comet. And get
those cars a lot.
Yeah, that's
like
those two are my favorite.
If you want to go a little cheaper, you could always try a late '70s, early '80s Fairmont or Granada. That's
the Fairmont. The future of Fairmont was my favorite. I like that body style. They had the fastback, and they're a Fox platform. So it's.
I didn't realize it was the same platform.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's basically a Mustang underneath, which is good because the Mustangs are always good for hooking up and.
Yeah, I will say I didn't know that until one day on Bang Shift, reading an article on Bang Shift, and they educated me about that. And it's like,
really?
And it was just that. It was like, really?
That's why they're so popular, because they make great drag cars.
Right. Yeah, and it wasn't until then that it's like, you want to, and, Mustangs, obviously, they're a little bit cooler, I guess, if you want to call it that. They're definitely more in demand.
Well, there's a lot of them out there with Chevy motors in them, too. So.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely yeah. If you want to keep the cost down a little bit, like I said, you go with a Fairmont, and
it's because they're. I mean, you can buy just about anything for them. You know.
That was what Glidden ran a Fairmont, right?
He did.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that's what Glidden ran.
He did well in that car too.
So that was, I guess that would have been late 70s before he went, because he went to Plymouth then for a short period of time. I think he ran an Aero.
He did for about a year, I think.
Yeah,
then
I think
he
so.
went back, and then he got into like he ran a T-Bird.
Right, yeah, then he had a couple Thunderbirds. He had a probe, yep. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Him and Ford must have had a little bit of argument between the Fairmont.
They did one year, and I don't know what the discrepancy was, but yeah, he did go over to Mopar, but he came right back. They coaxed him back.
Yeah. I would say Bob Glidden just passed away recently, within the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly another legend lost, unfortunately. Yeah, and it's funny, being a Chevy guy, I have to say my favorite Pro Stock driver when I was a kid growing up was Bob Glidden.
He was just an all-around nice guy. I mean,
he was a super nice guy.
Great personality. Guy worked his butt off, and he had a successful career. And he was smart.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said,
did all his own work, mostly.
Correct. Yep. And hard worker. That was
he was a hard worker.
He was a hard worker. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. That a lot of people think, oh, if you're running Pro Stock, it's like, oh, you had tons of money.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, it's like all those guys that were running Pro Stock at that point in time, they didn't have tons of money.
No.
They were just really, really hard workers, and they did it all themselves. And a little bit different than today's era of Pro Stock, where the guys are all basically independently wealthy. Can't see the car. Actually, I wish I could see it on the video right now. Looks like a Monza that's about to do a burnout at South Butler. That looks like a pretty fast car. Now, what did you say? Do you have ET clocks at South Butler as well, or just mile-an-hour clocks?
We have both.
You have both, okay.
Actually, and this year I think we've upgraded the software. We can get 0 to 60-foot times too now.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
We did find some discrepancies in our speed sensors at the end.
Okay.
So a lot of people were, saying, hey, we're going faster than we really should be.
Oh.
And that was why. So this year I think we'll be more in check with our speeds.
Okay. And I would say, what was the speed record heading into 2018?
What was he up to? I think 114, I think is what it was.
That was the guy that brought the truck in. He was watching the stands, and they broke his record, and then he brought his truck back, went home, got it, brought it back, and he reset the time.
Right. Yeah, which is a great story. That's a great story.
Yeah, that truck will be back, but it's going to get painted hot rod black this year.
Yeah.
And he's got a big Pro Stock scoop on it now. So.
And that's 10th mile you're racing? 10th. Okay. So yeah, 114 is pretty darn fast in a 10th mile.
Yeah, we found that they were probably anywhere from 5 or as much as 10 miles an hour off.
So, on the low side?
Well, they were registering high.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So they're registering
faster than what they were actually going.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the better way to have the problem, isn't it? When you say on a 10th mile track.
Yeah, especially from an insurance standpoint, right? Because as soon as you start going faster and faster, that's when insurance companies don't like it.
And a large portion of the original runoff area is still there underneath all the grass, right?
Yes.
Say that again?
A large portion of the original runoff area from when South Butler was open as it was Kings initially, right?
Right.
A portion of the track.
Originally, yeah. And it was quarter mile. Originally, it was
a quarter mile track, but a portion of the track got removed and it was adopted into a farmer's field.
Right. Yeah, it's field now.
But the rest of the track is still there, and between all the cracks.
That's our shutdown area, which is in need of repair. And it sounds like we might be in the works to have something done about that this year. It's getting refinished.
That's great news.
So that'll make a lot of guys happy, especially the guys of the pros and the modifieds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's very cool, actually. Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that a lot of that track was still there.
It's probably about half of it now.
Yeah. Now, do you guys over at the table? Do you have any of nostalgia pictures? I guess of the track from years gone by.
No, they don't have. There's nothing here, but we do have. Mark
Bill
Ross
have a lot of that stuff. Or?
Bill, I think Bill's got some. Yeah. And
Dad's going
a guy named Mark Brazio, who used to do our broadcasting, he actually did a DVD a few years ago.
Okay.
And then he's now doing another one and updating it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there should be some more of that stuff coming out.
And I'm assuming that you'll sell those to basically put that money towards the club, basically, and keep things.
Yeah,
running?
yeah. It's. I mean, we've had a lot of people have been asking about if they can get them and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Chris is kind of tuning me into these types of things because I guess I don't.
What do you mean?
Well, as far as the marketing aspect goes, and things that you can sell, to try to help your cause.
Oh yeah,
if
all
you
the
will,
stuff you're
right?
not doing.
Yes, all the things that I'm not doing. Exactly. Yes, but yeah, I mean, if you told me, hey, you know what, for $10 we'll sell you a DVD, even $20, we're going to sell you a DVD that has all this old nostalgia stuff on it from South Butler. Yeah, I'm all over that, right? Yeah. T-shirts, another thing. It's like, if we have South Butler Nostalgia Drags T-shirts.
They have those and some jackets and some hats and stuff like that.
Yeah, those are cool things. Not only to sell at the track itself, but to have at events like this. People think they're cool items to own.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll be watching for the new DVD for sure because I'll definitely want to see that. I say,
how you doing? Good.
How
are you?
Stopping by.
We're on
one
TV.
One of the RC racers from.
No, he assists at the. He assists at the sign shop where a lot of that stuff gets printed.
Oh, okay.
Same
All right.
thing.
But yeah, we see Bill has had a steady stream of people coming saying hi to him.
Doing a podcast for the racetrack.
I want to get Michael on to talk about the other car, not what this car behind us was, but the other car that's in Tickle's garage that was bought new, sat in the garage, and was never registered for the road.
That was the original Pro Stock car that you are talking about.
That's the Vega, right?
Yes, it's another Vega, and I don't know anything about it other than the fact that's the extent of my knowledge of the vehicle right now.
We just talked about all I know about it.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. I definitely would like to hear about that. I will say that one of the GRS sponsors, Wild Rides, Bob Mesler, he actually owns an original Pro Stock Vega as well that he's running as a nostalgia Pro Stock. That car was, I'm not sure whose car that was first, but I know it was then sold to John DeBartolomeo out of New Jersey, and he campaigned it as a Puerto Rican Dream super gas car for a long time.
Oh.
But it was originally built as a Vega Pro Stock car,
right.
And who knows, it might have been a NES car. I mean, they were real popular with the Pro Stock in the Pro Stock categories, obviously going
yes,
back.
They were.
So, definitely like to hear about this Vega that Tickle has.
I see there's a club or group or something. They're doing a resurgence of the Pro Stock cars, but they're building like clones of the old cars.
Right.
And then you can race them.
That's right. Yep.
That's really cool.
Say that again?
So there's a whole Nostalgia Pro Stock series, the whole circuit.
So we talked about that with Dan a couple times, right? Is that the one?
So did we talk about it with Dan? Oh, Dan Delaney?
Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. God, why he doesn't... So the guy that runs the 470 series, why is his name?
470 Thunder?
Yes, the 470 Thunder series. It'll come to me. Anyways, he's the organizer of the Nostalgia Pro Stock series at Empire as well.
Okay.
Chassis builder. I mean, I could see his car, for God's sakes. Why can't I think of his name? I hate getting old. So they actually have a Nostalgia Pro Stock series that they were running at Empire, and they've at least had a few races I know out there.
Cool.
And so he has a Pro Stock car, and Bob Mesler, he has, like I said, he has that Vega. I forget who else it was that was out there, but
nice.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean,
it is cool.
The only name I can think of is Bill Jaws.
Bob Jaws.
Bob
Jaws. Thank you. As soon as I gave me the last name, Bob Jaws, and I apologize, Bob. I don't know why I couldn't think of your name. But I'll blame the Vicodin, I guess.
You're over. I'm out. I'm out on that. Go on.
Which I'm not on, by the way. I had some if I wanted to take it, but the finger doesn't feel that bad.
You are digging a hole.
Oh yes. So if anybody would like to get some,
you are further digging a hole.
Yes. Thankfully, the finger doesn't feel that bad. That I took one yesterday at the hospital, and
I think you're still being affected by it.
That's possible. Who knows? I would have thought it would have worn off by now, but obviously not, since I couldn't think of Bob Jaws' name. But yeah, those cars are cool. They, I don't know if they, I think they might change. Well, it might be they might just have to make you run small blocks. It might just be small block. I think they are just small blocks, actually.
That's fine.
But yeah, then they have to be, manually shifted, either 4-speeds or Lenkos, and they're neat cars to watch. And I mean, they're pretty fast too. I mean, those guys are going in the mid-8s. I mean, for what they are from a car standpoint, they're fast vehicles.
But you got my attention when you're talking about the replicas. You could buy a replica body essentially to put on a Nostalgia Pro stock.
No, you basically just build it yourself.
I understand.
Go out, buy the car, and then just make a clone.
What I was thinking is that they were somehow repopping these bodies with the graphics packages from the Pro stocks from back in the heyday of Pro stock.
Oh,
so conceivably you could have 7 of the same car if everybody fell in love with that driver.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying now. It's just the body style, paint it how you like.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that most of the cars, one of the rules generally with the these series, there's a couple of them, is that they require that the cars appear as one of the old Pro stock vehicles from the day. So, there's probably 3 or 4 guys that are running, Bill Grumpy Jenkins paint schemes on their vehicles.
Right.
So yeah, you'll see a few of those out there.
But how do the original owners of those cars feel? I mean, that's happening. That you've got a rule in place that says you have to copy somebody else's car.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you just put a rule in? It has to be nostalgia appearing. It has to have the same theme so that you can still have some originality and some diversity.
Well, I think initially, honestly, I think a lot of the guys were, I don't know, hurt, if you will, let's call it, as guys were out there, doing these nostalgia vehicles, tribute vehicles, and stuff like that. But I think they've come to realize that, what you have guys that are big fans.
Sure.
And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, I have to say, I'd be pretty honored, right? If somebody said, hey, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to build a red Corvette to honor, John Oldfield or Jason Oldfield.
Right.
I'd be pretty honored that somebody wanted to do that.
Sure.
At the same time, there's also the entertainment value. If you can replicate for 3 or 4 rounds in a row classic Pro stock matches, it's going to be a lot easier on people it's going to be easier for fans to get a vested interest in what's going on versus watching people they don't know.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yep. That's absolutely true. So,
what station?
Finger Lakes 1.
Finger Lakes 1. It's online. It's online, sir.
Is it on a radio station?
It is not on a radio station. It's on Finger Lakes 1 on the computer. I wish it was on the radio station. We haven't got there yet.
What are you promoting?
This is Final Round Drag Racing Podcast. If you're looking for the show office, it's right over there.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't got anything.
Well, we got a couple of different podcasts that Chris does. 31st Lap, Drag Racing 1. So.
Just wondering, being nosy.
No issue. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Yep.
So, I lost what we were talking about there.
Oh, we were talking about the Nostalgia Pro Stock
Pro
series.
Stocks.
Yeah, so they're cool. I will say the one guy has, I don't know whose car it is, but he has is it the Rod Shop? I think it's painted in Rod Shop colors, a Rod Shop Colt after Don Carlton's kind of in that kind of tribute series. Now, you'd never confuse it for the same car because it's much more modernized, but it's got that Rod Shop, and actually he's got videos on YouTube. If you were to type Rod Shop Colt, I bet you find it. It's a cool looking car for sure.
I don't remember if you can actually put the name on there, but you can make it paint it up like it.
Yes, you can definitely paint it up like it. I think in certain cases, whether you put the name on there or not is really, I think, up to the people. I think in most cases, what guys are doing is they're trying to search out the original owners of those vehicles to get permission to do it. I know with the Motown Missile, the guy who owns the Motown Missile name, Arnie Clan, is a guy out in California. So generally, if guys want to do Motown Missile themed vehicles, they're calling Arnie and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do a tribute car. Is it okay for me to do that? And Arnie's all for it. He doesn't care.
That's great.
So I think that's what in general what guys are doing. Because I know I wouldn't. I definitely would not want to go and build a vehicle against somebody's wishes. I mean, if somebody said, no, I absolutely don't want you to do that. But they're definitely cool.
But I mean, they're also getting more exposure and putting it out there for the people who didn't know them or too young to know them or remember them.
That's right.
And it's just bringing the whole thing back.
Yep. Of course, on the flip side, depending upon if there was any sponsorship on that vehicle, it's like maybe that sponsorship ended poorly, and the guy's like, no,
true.
I don't want that company represented anymore.
Yeah. That could be a problem.
But for the most part, I think, like I said, I've seen all sorts of Nostalgia Pro Stockers, and I think most part people, like I said, they're humbled by the fact that somebody wants to build a tribute vehicle.
Right.
Because, yeah, growing up, it's like a lot of these guys were our heroes, right?
Sure.
It's definitely some cool stuff.
It is. It's neat. I like to see it.
And I will say, a perfect place to have some of those cars would definitely be South Butler.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, has the track South Butler closed for how long?
Oh, I don't remember exactly. It closed somewhere in the 70s for a while. Then it was opened back up again, and then it closed again for a few years, and then it's been on and off probably 2 or 3 times.
And how many years now in succession has it been that you guys have had the track open?
We've done it for, this will be our 6th year.
I would say the track looks great too. From the, I don't know if these videos were from last year.
This is last year, 20. Yeah.
But yeah, the track looks great. I mean, really done a nice job keeping it clean and you know, fixing it up for everybody to come out. And I know it's you know, it's an event, right? You know, once a month,
right?
You come out, you camp out, you have fun.
But that's what it's all about. Just
now, on a normal Saturday, how many cars did you get last year?
We could get 60, 80, 100.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars. That's really a lot of cars.
Did it seem like it went down the later the season went, like every other racing series, or was it up and down, erratic?
It just depends on the weekend a lot of times, you know. Like the first weekend in June, not one of the most popular ones, because you do have graduations, you got things going on.
Right.
And it was the biggest, and then we started doing July. We didn't do them before because July is such a busy month, a lot of other stuff going on. You got the Nationals, a lot of stuff going on. So, but at the end of July, there's really not a whole lot. That's why we snuck this one in there, and it turned out good. We had a good result. Usually the fall, the last one is the biggest one. It's kind of the last hurrah.
Everybody wants to get one more in,
one
right?
more. And the weather's always beautiful, so. But it's kind of up and down. But really, I mean, for the most part, we do pretty well.
I was saying that might be, for me personally, for 2018, that might be the one that gets me to come out this year.
I hope so.
So our last, currently our last race is scheduled for, I want to say mid-September, maybe it's the second week of September or so. After that, at that point, now it's just go do whatever you want for fun, right? And yeah, I definitely, it's high on my list of things to do. I definitely want to get out there.
Yeah, we hope so. We'd like to have you out there at least once, anyway.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm all for the nostalgia stuff, and yeah, having a track like that is super cool. I'm sure that, geez, I can't think of the name of the track either. There's another track that's down south someplace, and you know, kind of South Butler-ish, if you will, and it's like on my bucket list is to get down there, and I don't know if I would be crazy enough to make a pass on that particular track, but I at least want to go and watch.
Well,
it's pretty cool, and
you really it's hard to explain. It's almost like any other race where you see it on TV. It's not the same as when you're there live.
Right.
And this is exactly the same.
That's right.
Kind of concept, because you really have to be there. It's just, you know, it's not going to be your typical drag race like you go to see on a professional track, but it's something that's wow, this is fun.
Now, do you get a lot of grudge racing there?
We do have people that, you know, hey, can I line up against this guy? Yeah, sure, why not? Go on.
Yeah.
If you want to, yeah, we'll do it. we'll even coax some people out of the grandstand. Say, hey, you know, come drive the car if you want.
Sure.
Take it out.
Yeah, from that standpoint, because you really have such a relaxed atmosphere, right?
Right.
It really would be a great spot for someone that was interested potentially in, you know, just giving it a go.
Sure.
Take their street car out there and kind of just learn the real basics of, all right, this is what the Christmas tree is, this is how you stage the car, and so yeah, from that standpoint, I never really thought about it, but it really is a great environment for doing something like that.
I mean, it's, you know, $20. I mean,
right. I know so many people are intimidated by it when they go out to the track, You know, and especially if you're looking at, you know, a bigger track and there's, you know, let's call it, you know, lots of really fast race cars there, you might be like, well, yeah, obviously my street car doesn't belong racing at Empire Dragway, right? And it's like, well, there's a street class. I mean, if you want to race your street car, you can race it. But, you know, you see a dragster there that, you know, runs in the low sevens, you're like, you think to yourself, yeah, they don't want me on the track, right? But again, something that, you know, like South Butler, where it's definitely, there's fast cars there, obviously, but definitely more of a fun atmosphere.
That's what it's all about.
A low-key atmosphere. Guys might be more willing to do that.
Yeah, come out and just get some seat time and just see what it feels like. Most people, they'll come for the first time, and the reaction is, I'm coming back. I'll be here the next time, you know, because, hey, this was a lot of fun, and that's what it's about. That's what we want it to be, is just fun.
Right.
You're not there to you know, win money or prizes or anything. It's just come out and have fun.
Fun does help, doesn't it?
Fun does help, yes. And it is fun. Though I've had my wife ask me a couple of times, why do you do this if it's not fun? It's like, well, it has its moments.
It was fun last time.
Yes. there are definitely some times when it's very frustrating, very aggravating, but yeah, for the most part, it's fun. And
it is.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure I've said this on the air before, but it's just the old adage of, you know, a bad day at the racetrack is still better than a good day at work type of thing,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
So
you know, and if you got a cruising car, a classic cruising car, you can bring that over, park on the spectator side. Everybody does. You can go walk around, just go look at the cars. I mean, that's half the show right there. Right. You know.
Yeah, and that is, like I said, that is kind of half of it right there, is that your events really are like a car show / drag race kind of combination in one.
It is. And we get a lot of cars on the spectator side.
And being a nostalgia series, it's cool because, again, now for 2018, you're not going to see anything newer than 1990.
Right.
Right. So yeah, you're not going to go there and see a whole bunch of newer Corvettes and Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that. You're going to see some pretty cool old cars. Lots of ones like the Chevelle or the El Camino, the Comet, and this Camaro here. So
yeah, that's basically what you see out there. That stuff right there.
Cool. Now, we haven't talked about the El Camino at all. Whose El Camino is that?
He's here, but I don't recall his name. He comes out with a couple different cars.
I say it's got plates on it, so obviously
it's street driven.
Street driven, with a supercharger on it.
Yep.
I'm sure that is I'm sure that's a fun vehicle to drive on the street.
Oh, I bet.
And you know, again, kind of done more, I would call it, a nostalgia type of trim. You know, with the Krager SS wheels on it, and
yeah, that's a 70s look.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, definitely a cool car. I was never a big El Camino fan, but I will say that overall, a lot of these vehicles grew on me as I got older. You know?
I always liked that style because it was like you could have two vehicles in one.
Right.
You can have a hot rod and a pickup at the same time.
That's right. Yeah, and I will say that, I don't know, I'm going to guess, I'm not a Chevelle expert, I'm going to guess that that's a 70.
I believe that's.
We were having that conversation yesterday, and of course we could have easily taken the 15 steps to go look at the registration in the window.
Yes.
Which none of us did. We speculated back and forth based on the taillights if it was a 69 or a 70.
Yep. So I'm going to go with 70, and I will say that yes, I like the 69s and 70s.
Good. How are you?
I like the dual headlights up front. Really like that look.
The 69 had a different front end. They had the headlights had the little browse on them.
Oh, okay.
Hung over on 69 and 70 they changed.
I thought you were a Ford guy.
I am, but I like them all.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we joke, right? But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I like all the cars really out there,
I do.
and certainly can respect. I mean, really, regardless of what it is. I mean, I think we showed them just very quickly, but the tractors over there, it's like I can appreciate the work that's gone into those. Right?
Oh yeah, a lot of work.
That's insane.
That's insane.
That work that went into that to stretch the frame. That's still a lawn tractor frame underneath there, with a small block. I believe it's a small block Chevy between the rails.
Yeah.
And it's custom everything
in
order to get it to go, and it still classifies as a lawnmower in their modified class. It's unbelievable.
guys will race anything.
That's for sure.
Now, granted, they're not racing now.
Those
it's
are all
now
pulling.
it's pulling.
All those are
pulling,
pulling, but
right.
we've had racing lawnmowers here before.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm sure some of the tracks around here, the dirt tracks, they probably have modified lawnmower races on the dirt tracks around here, right?
Not so much that I've seen lately. Those guys, like, they almost got they've got their own pockets where they go.
Yeah.
And they run in their own circles. They don't even get to the, and that's one of those weird things again with that exposure. Go set up your racing lawnmower series on the midway at a local track some Friday or Saturday and just get people interested.
Yeah.
If it leads to nothing, at least you tried.
That's right.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of what I like that these guys are here. They came and they're out there.
Yeah.
Put their product out there. Because even if somebody comes and says, you know what, this is really cool, and that's all they interact with the lawn tractor pulling association that's over there, it's still feedback.
Right.
I mean, still put it on the radar.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say that I've never been to a tractor pull. I don't know why, because I know that they are around here. You don't have to go that far to go see some pretty good tractor pulls.
Hemlock has a couple great shows.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to go, honestly. I mean, I used to watch them all the time. Again, I'm dating myself, but the Nashville network, TNN, which I don't know what the heck it would be called now. But
Lucas Oil on the Edge, I believe.
Oh, that could be. But anyways, I used to watch, because they used to do all sorts of stuff like that, the swamp buggy races, and they were entertaining to watch.
They are. They're fun.
What are you thinking?
There's another channel now that Lucas Oil was involved with, MAV TV.
Oh, MAV TV, right. Yeah, I mean, I think TNN ended up becoming Speed.
Spike.
Oh, it then becomes Spike, okay, which is now the Paramount Network. But
used to be Diamond P.
Right, yeah, Diamond P Motorsports, the Cavalcade of Stars. I mean, yeah, that was some great broadcasting back then. But regardless, we're kind of, I guess, straying. I really enjoy the tractor pulls, and it's one of the things that see if I can make the opportunity to go out and watch those guys this year, because it's pretty cool. And I'd probably be amazed at those little lawn tractors, how much those stupid things can pull, right?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
The full-blown pulling series, Lucas Oil was behind one of the national tours, and they've come to Hamburg and to Hemlock.
Okay.
On a regular basis, at nationally sanctioned shows.
Yeah, definitely have to find out when they're coming, because I'd like to see those. Obviously getting the unlimited guys with the 6 supercharged engines in them, and the turbines and all the rest of the stuff,
yes.
but which are pretty amazing. But again, I mean, you look at some of the smaller tractors down at the end there. I mean, they're little engines in there, but I'm sure they're just making gobs of power for what they have.
Proportionally.
Yes, yeah. I bet you they're a handful to drive too.
You steer it with the throttle pedal because the front end's not on the ground anyway.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah. When I mean drive, I mean control. I guess getting them down the track.
Direct.
Yeah. Definitely got to come out to Finger Lakes Mall here and see the show. It's definitely it's pretty neat. There's some really nice stuff here for sure.
What do you think? See if we can break one of those guys away.
I would say, is Bill still
Bill or Mike for that matter?
I would say, are they still signing autographs?
Doesn't look like it. Now they're just signing each other's shirts. Keeping their hands in shape. Randy, man, I appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out for a little while. Yep. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Yep.
We got to switch hands.
All right, that's fine.
But for sure, jump online, check out South Butler Nostalgia Dragway. They've got tons of stuff going on out at that track along the 2018 schedule. 4 big races on deck for them. And there's a good look at a couple of the cars. And you're right, Comet.
Yeah, like that car a lot.
Yeah, because it's red.
No, I'm sure it's because of the fact that my uncle campaigned one. I think my uncle's was a 65.
Whoever's first.
Yeah, have a seat.
Because you got to go.
What channel's this on?
I say, you got to go?
Not right away. I just did that to get him to pick up the pace.
Oh, I got you.
He's got to get to Buffalo.
Yeah, I got to do with Cavalcade tonight.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah, I'm probably leaving here about 1, 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Heading there. So
And how many cars you guys got out there?
We did 3. We kind of minimized it. Wanted to do, through the Gas Racing Series, the champions get first right of refusal to get in the show.
Oh, okay.
And then we did another car, and then I wanted enough so that years gone by we did 6, and you couldn't get into the space, and you felt like an outsider when I went in.
Right.
So we did a little bit bigger space, lesser car, so now the GRS can do more.
Yeah. Yep.
Promotion and actually, we got a table set up like here.
Yep.
I assume I haven't really seen it yet. I'll know later. So yeah, just so we can pimp better. And
I would assume from getting the logistics standpoint, getting the cars here, obviously it was a challenge to get vehicles here.
Yeah.
Was it as difficult going west? I'm guessing not.
No, not it was. Well, Frank handles that show.
Okay.
And I do this one.
Yep.
Or Mike and I do this one. We honestly were supposed to have 6 cars here.
Yeah.
Well, this is a free show, so I can afford to bring as many cars as we can get in the building.
Yep.
The other one, there's a cost involved. But yeah, those guys, generally everybody brings their own stuff.
Yeah.
These cars are out of my shop, so I was responsible for getting them here.
Yep.
And I guess I was the only one willing to take my my summer cars out in the crap. God, that kind of was disappointing because it was not. We had the week and a half of great weather.
Right.
Then it got crappy on Friday night. Yep. Then the roads were clear on the way out. I'm going, oh, this isn't so bad. I'm not tickled, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And then you get here and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But we're here. Everything looks good. Cars look good.
Cars look great.
So it's all good.
Tell us a little bit more about the Dodge.
The Dodge. Well, it's the number one brand. It's actually a Plymouth. Did you notice the emblem on the hood?
The Plymouth Ram. Yep, I noticed that. I also saw the star cut out of the window. So you can
yes,
through.
Yes. It's all about the little things. And
the real functioning taillights.
Yes, fine. Not only the taillights, it has. I'm a stickler on that type of stuff. What's one light bulb and a couple of feet of wire cost? One taillight to me is just silly.
I'm right there with you.
So
right there with you.
Every car I do, 2 tail. I don't care. At that point, this customer on this Vega, for instance, he's like, no, dude, I don't care. You're getting 2 bulbs, and a little wire, and it looks finished.
Yeah.
I mean, one looks like you got a light out.
Right.
But on my truck, because it's my truck, I got fussy. The transmission, and it gets, again, I get into these really deep circles and holes. So the transmission that used to be in it was an all-electric 2-speed called a Bruno. Or not a Bruno. API Big Brute.
Okay.
They used to be out of Canada. It had no shifter. It was all electric. There was you didn't command it. You put in an RPM switch, and basically it would shift, and it had a lock-up clutch. So I started playing with it, and I said, oh, it'd be cool. So backing up because I'm ahead of myself. So, yes, I have 2 functioning taillights on the race truck that are molded into the fiberglass body.
That are Dodge Ram taillights?
No, they're Plymouth taillights. And then it has functioning brake lights. So when I hit the brake pedal, there's a brake pedal and then there's a stage brake. If ever I'm on the brakes, you'll know it because not only do the brake lights on the back work, but the brake lights on the cab, those function as well. They're there. If I took the time to put the lens up there, it's got to work. That's cool. And then the killer is, the best part is, it has backup lights. Again, it's just it just was something I was tweaking one day, and it was a mini electric science project that, again, with the electric transmission, being almost like a power glide, a safety brake type situation. When you get on, you have to back up, you put it in reverse, you got to hit the trans brake button to back up. So I integrated this where I had, but in that transmission there was a race mode and a manual mode. Manual mode was for burnouts and backing up, and then race mode just put it in the timer mode. So when it's down in manual, I had a separate button for backing up that was kind of stepped off. So when I hit that button for backing up, which was pretty much the only time I used it, the backup lights came on. And then when you flipped up to manual or to race mode, that button would go dead. and the race button, easier to get at on the steering wheel, became active, and it was just why I get nothing done in my shop.
But those are the cool little details,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
that
that's exactly.
in a lot of cases separate one vehicle from another.
Yeah, and it's
I didn't notice if the backup lights, do they have blue dots in the middle?
no,
okay.
it's not an old school car. No.
Now, what year is that truck?
I prefer to call it a 2001. I don't want to call it the year that I bought the body.
Okay.
Because that's the year that Plymouth quit making pickups.
Yes, it is, and it's also the first year they came out with that body style. Yes, this truck has been a lot of people's joy, meaning they get to pick on me because it just sits in my shop and doesn't do anything. It's been upgraded I don't know how many times because like that. Go back to the transmission, for instance. I started out, I had a nice little power glide in it.
Yep.
That was a pretty well built power glide. Then I came across this API 2-speed, so that's better, so I sold it. And then here a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I took that out and put a Bruno and a 2-speed Lenco in it.
Yep.
It was a good deal, and it's better. And I just keep, and that's kind of what also slows me down is I just keep finding how that better part over there.
Right.
I just replaced the entire ignition. I just put this quirky little stuff that where when I get on the trans brake for launch, because again we got it's almost like a spaceship in there with certain buttons you got to push.
Yep.
So when you get on the trans brake for launch, I can retard the timing physically. The distributor or the mag moves up to 44 degrees to take timing out, and then it's on a restriction valve that will slowly integrate it back in as long as I want to take to roll that timing back in.
Does it have a servo motor or a stepper motor on the mag that
pneumatic
actually rotates it?
Yeah, there's a little bearing assembly and a pneumatic piston. And then you set it, and then you set these and you get on, like I say, you get on it and just clicks it over.
Yeah.
And then when you let it go, it just kind of slowly integrates. And I'm a mechanical guy. I know how electricity works and electronics work, and I can't see them, so I don't like them.
Right.
I can see if oil's leaking. I'm good with that.
Well, I will say that a lot of us mechanical guys are like that, and I wish I went to school for mechanical engineering. I wish I would have gone for electrical engineering for multiple reasons.
It's half the program.
But one of the reasons I wish is because it would have given me, I guess, just a little bit more comfort working with electrical stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, because you can't see it, us mechanical guys are like, geez, I don't know what's going to happen when I hook those two wires up, right?
It's all good.
I would say I've been kind of pressed into it, and I have a comfort level with, but at my home, for instance, it's like if you said, I've done it, but you want to wire in a breaker? No, not really, because
take the faith. I
really don't want to, because I'm kind of prone to accidents. And
as great as an idea as it sounds, I don't.
Right.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
So this is on cable, so I can say a few things. But so I work in a mechanical engineering department as well, and I have my opinion. I mean, mechanical guys know everything about, not everything I shouldn't say, but electricity is part of it.
Right.
It's the same every time. 12 volts is 12 volts. I don't care what you do with it. 24, you pick your system. It is what it is. And so we're at lunch one day, we're sitting there, and one of the guys, we play cards, and a bunch of mechanical guys sitting there, and a bunch of the electrical guys we let eat with us sit there too. I call them electricians. They don't like it. They tell me, no, I'm not an electrician. I always tell them, don't underestimate yourself.
Right.
He's sitting there and he makes some rude comment towards mechanical, and this guy goes, oh, that hurts my heart. I go, dude, it's like a retard calling you a retard. So I have, it's only wire, twist it together, put some tape on it, and send it down the road. Mechanical stuff has, it varies greater.
It's amazing it's amazing until you have some type of electrical mishap.
Yeah.
With 12 volts.
Yeah.
Like I said, people think, 12 volts, 24 volts. It's like, it's low voltage, right? What harm can that do?
Yeah.
Well, take a a lead directly from the battery and ground it out to the frame, and watch what 12 volts can do.
It's a great smoke generator.
Oh man, yeah.
Well, yeah. It's a.
We were wired into wall current when we got caught at a derby one time, and it was this table, and the table was sitting on an uneven sidewalk, so it was concave in the middle, and all the power coming to feed all this stuff had to run through water and everything. And every time I leaned into, that's not the microphone anymore, because the microphone was garbage after it happened, and so was the soundboard. We continued to press on, and they wouldn't let us stay with the equipment while the rain was falling. We couldn't get it to a safe area. Afterward, there was water pooled up under the computer and under the soundboard and everything. So every time I leaned into the microphone, I took an arc right to the front teeth. And
That explains a thing or two, doesn't it?
and we went through the rest of the show like that. So
Yeah.
it didn't kill me. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Anything that doesn't kill you only makes you
yeah,
stronger.
it was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it can't be 12 volts is nothing.
Yeah. No. I got lots of little stories about invisible stuff.
It's not the volts. I heard it's the amperage.
It's the ass.
amperage is-
It's just call it ass.
Yeah. Yeah, when I just got my car redone and rewired, and I had the alternator cable that was still hooked up to the battery, but it was sitting there, and I don't remember exactly what happened. My neighbor was over the house helping me, and he dropped that cable, and it arced out onto the frame, and I turned the power off to that car within, I'll say, a couple of seconds. That alternator cable, it was pretty thick gauge. I'm going to say it was probably 6-gauge wire.
Yeah, that's good size.
It was welded completely solid 20 feet back in the 1 second
Yeah.
that it was touching the frame.
It's that heat thing.
Oh boy, yeah, it got real hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, my brand new alternator cable had to then be pulled out and replaced.
Yeah.
Because that was no good
You don't
anymore.
say.
No.
So yeah, be careful with 12
Yeah.
volts.
Yeah.
So back to the mechanical side of things, the motor that's in your truck, what is that?
It's basically an outdated alcohol funny car motor. The combination I bought, it's a 525 cubic inch, blown injected, Keith Black, Vini billet heads. It's like a secret. To be honest with you, if you looked at it on a financial sense, I'm a Chrysler and a Hemi guy. I've had a Hemi now since 1988. I think I bought my first one, so I think they're the best motor on the planet. Everyone else should.
I knew that by sight.
Yeah, but
The cubic inches, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
By sight.
by
As
sight.
I was told,
Wow.
I knew it by sight.
See,
Yes.
now I thought they were all 526s.
I'm okay. They call them 526s, but you do the math, they come out to 529.
525.
Yeah, it's 4 1/4 stroke, 4.310 bore. No, mine's 4.320 bore.
Okay.
I forget what mine is now. Been too long.
But everybody calls them,
Yeah.
because he had told me before we went on the air that it was a 525. I'm like, a 525 or 526? Because
Yeah.
I thought all those Aries and Rodex and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, I thought those were all 526s.
Oh, they could be. That's all that Chevy wannabe stuff.
Yes, exactly.
It's all they're looking up to. Yeah. Oh, how can we do it? Oh, we can't. We'll just
Right.
give up.
So that's a Keith Black
That's
motor?
a Keith Black block, Vini, like say Vini billet heads. But so the secret to that is that, so the combination I bought, the heads and everything, which is most of it, back up, trying to put some, that's like the small block Chevy. Most of the parts in that motor are off the shelf in the alcohol funny car world.
Yep.
So you call Vinolia, tell him you got a Vini headed, this stroke, he sends your pistons off the shelf because they got them.
Right.
You get into anything else, and now they got to make the pistons. The heads, you just call Vini, sends you out parts.
Yep.
The rockers, it's all, and that's the cool part about it. But when you start, because alcohol funny cars like this semi-pro condition where they're looking for every ounce of power,
Right.
a new set of heads or a new improvement comes along, and they just start, as we all know with race car parts, they become valueless.
Right.
And to quote some numbers, so I bought a set of Vini billet heads that needed to be freshened with rockers and everything, with valve covers, the whole night, for $2,500.
Yeah, that's cheap.
You can't buy a good set of big block Chevy,
That's
Mopar,
right.
anybody's
That's
heads
right. Yep.
for that kind of money. So you can build a motor of that size and power using outdated parts.
Right.
I mean, the combination, as I was told I bought the combination out of a guy up in Hamilton, Ontario. he was tickling like 2,900 horse way back when. I've hopefully pulled 1,000 horsepower out of it.
So I mean, if you wanted to run an alcohol funny car today, obviously that that combination wouldn't be competitive.
It's not good for Pro Mod,
but
barely good for top sportsman.
Right. But like I said, you want to do it on a budget and still go fast.
Doing, fast bracket racing, and that's all my goal is just I wanted to go fast, and you can go buy up these parts and all the parts are good. They're not like blown up, beat up parts.
Right.
They're just stuff that weren't good enough for what they were intended for. And again, I've owned them for a while now, so there's stuff. But if you want to go out there, the other side of the spectrum, you want to go buy the stuff all brand new for what I'm doing, you're nuts.
Right.
I mean, you've bought, a nice summer cottage in in the islands for that.
Right.
But no, so for the average guy that just wants to go have a fast motor, and again, durability is going to be huge because they're designed to make way more horsepower than I'm going to use at them.
Right.
I stuffed an automatic behind it to boot, which takes some of the hit off because the clutch is you got a big old pump on the front of the crank, and you got a big old clutch on the back. It tries to make them straight. So there's lots of benefits to it. Cost is one of them. And
why a truck? Just to be different?
I've been so you asked me the right questions. I got the story for it. So here's the story. So way back in the day, I used to be big into Barracudas.
Okay.
I've had a lot of 70 Barracudas, and then I bought a 67 Barracuda, this 1984, that was a race car its entire life.
Wow.
And I ran a 446 back in a 4-speed in that car on the street, and back then it was a very quick car. I mean, 1984, 85 time. And I started building that to race. Or I started tubbing and doing stuff. And I was, back then I was 20 years old and still learning how to do everything, much less be a race car builder. And in the meantime, I bought this little Dodge short box pickup truck. It was a 79 pickup truck, slant 6, 3 on the tree truck. And I wanted to make it, I wanted to put a big block in it. So I put a 440 in it and I didn't even put a limited slip in it. And I was bored, went to the racetrack, and I did an 18-second quarter mile, and it pissed me off. So then I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden there was a Dana 60 slated to go under the Barracuda, and when it was out of a B-body Chrysler, I set it there, I put it under the truck. I go, it's perfect. It's like it fits with a 13-inch set of wheels. I don't like tubbing a truck. I could put a set of 1432 slicks under the truck. I just had to cut out the wheel tubs, but I didn't have to do any frame modifications.
Yeah.
Right.
I did a quick spring flip where I put the axle on top of the springs, and I put the springs under the frame. The truck set at stock height with 1432s on it, and that truck went from running 18s. The best it went was like a 1304. Now this was with a I took a motor out of a 76 New Yorker with 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
I put we'll talk the old jargon, the old acronyms and all this stuff. I'll come out a DC 509 cam, which was a direct connection purple shaft. It was a big hydraulic roller at the time. Holly Street Dominator intake and an 800 Holly on it. That was back then. That was where all the trick parts, right?
Yeah.
And a set of headers. And that truck went 13 O's.
That's so cool.
The only thing I did to lighten it up was I took the heater core out of it. And then, so I started doing that, and then, like I said, in '88, I stumbled across this. It was a '67 WO motor.
Okay.
That the guy bought it in '67 and wrecked the car in '67. Oh. But it had all the tricks. So for those you don't know, a WO motor is a super stock motor. It had sat under a bench for a number of years, but the guy had gone and warmed them. It had a set of Manley pistons in it, and this motor was perfect. Standard bore. It was like brand new. And I bought it in 1988 for $3,500.
Wow.
And that was supposed to go in the Barracuda. Right. Because I still owned the Barracuda at the time, but I'm sitting there, I got this truck, so I said, I will put it in the truck. And that's the beginning of, so this is long, short story long. So I put it in there, and the truck instantly went to, it would run 1150s. Again, with just this nice little Hemi in it. And Sam Capizzi, remember Sam Capizzi?
Yeah.
Big, he had a nice little white dart. I've never been, I won't say I'm not friends with him, but I'm not, we're race acquaintances at best. And I can just remember him and I used to run the snot out of that motor. I used to shift at 8,500 RPM. Hemis love RPM. They just love it. And he would walk over and he's just like, he would shake his head. And I would hear him talking. He just beats the crap out of that motor. And he tells me, but the motor, if you're a Chrysler guy, you're hooked on Hemis anyways. But once you own one and do something with them, you won't own anything else. They're just, expense, it's like crack. The expense don't matter anymore. I sometimes get torn between crack and Hemi parts. But anyways, so no, I started, and then so on that whole thing, so that's how I got into trucks. That's cool. That's the short story.
This truck here is there's no original truck frame left to it. You built
taillights came from Chrysler.
Did you build the chassis yourself?
Yes.
Is that something you came into?
Yes.
So I mean, we're talking about there's a ton of geometry work to make a chassis by itself, but now you're taking something that there's theoretically not a whole lot in terms of blueprints to follow. I mean,
it's the science is pretty much the same. It's all about triangles is the answer. And
it's some of a foresight joke.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. We'll see how well it works, because as the story goes, people know the truck hasn't never been anywhere. As close as it's been 90% forever. This bringing to the show was good, because now I think I'm like 92%.
Cool. I was amazed how easy the front came together. The nose just slid on, and
the box comes off just as easy.
I mean,
everything, the thing will fall apart if I don't put all the Zoots buttons in. Might fall apart anyways.
And it can't travel with the headers or the nose on it.
Yes, true.
The header's got to come off?
Yeah, it won't fit between the wheel wells of the trailer.
God.
So it's one of them. It's, again, everybody's stuff comes first. I got to make ramps so I can go over the wheel wells. Then I don't have to take the headers off.
Okay.
But they're easy to take on.
Or you probably have pins, right, that the bottom end of the zoomies just all slide off.
I was started down that road, but in quick order, I'm like, the first time which they're out there, you're going to lean on them every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or I figured, screw it, weld them on. We'll just take them on and off. I bought a pile of header gaskets and use them until they leak and put on a new set.
I guess the nice thing is that with the front end coming off, I mean, taking the headers, putting the headers on, taking them off on that vehicle, taking the front end off is not that difficult.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes.
The door just pops into place, and there's a body. There's a body mount just ahead of where the door fits.
Oh yeah.
And when you close that door, visually, you're gonna smash the front edge of that door on it, but it clears it by a piece of paper. It was pretty precise. I was surprised.
Now, what happened to the WO Hemi that you had?
I got tired. I got worried. How do the best way to say it? I wasn't worried, but I didn't want to beat on it, because it's one of those deals. It was a very, very, I mean, the thing was pristine.
Yep.
And somebody offered me a lot of money for the block and heads.
Bye.
Exactly. I'm like, I'll sell the gravel out of my driveway. I don't care. You want to pay me for it, it's gone. But yeah, somebody offered me a boatload of money for it. I didn't want to beat on it. That was the early stages of me wanting to build a big cube. This is 1994-ish. It would have been 2, 3, somewhere in there. But I wanted to build a 500 cubic inch Hemi, because even back then, that was a big cubic inch motor. And there was no way I was going to take that motor out to it. And I got offered a boatload of money for the block and the heads. So I sold them and bought lesser parts.
Yeah.
I got a cool Bill Drake story about. So I found this and back then it was also hard to find. Now it's easy to find Hemi parts.
Right.
Back then it was hard. I found this block. It was cracked on the outside. Somebody left water and it was cracked on the outside. It had been some type of race motor, because somebody had ground every feature off the outside of this block to take weight out of it. And it was only $800. So this is 19, it had been, 91 or 92. And so I grabbed Bill Drake and said, hey, come look at this block with me, tell me what you think. So we go and look at this block. I pick him up at a shop. We drive into over Henrietta somewhere, I think it was. look at the block. He says, yeah, it's good. So I say, okay. I tell the guy I'll take the block. We're driving back to Bill's shop, and though he was on Ridgeway, we get off on Ridgeway, and there's a police officer, I won't tell you what branch, sitting under the bridge. And Bill was pretty much a calm, held together guy. He always, he's always dressed well, and he always carried himself well. And I've told his wife this story and his other friends this story, and they laugh, so I can tell it on to the rest of the world. And as we're coming up and we're going over the bridge, Bill goes, I wish we had this Hemi block with us right now. We'd drop it on that MFR right now. I'm like, oh my God, what did he do to you? Because I'm thinking, it's just all of a sudden like Tourette's kicked in. But no, that's cool.
Is Bill not with us any longer?
No, yeah, we lost Bill February 16, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
But the shop's still going, and actually one of the crimes that I see is that, not a crime, I shouldn't say it that way, but they came out with a T-shirt and a sweatshirt that's awesome. I wish they'd been out when Bill was running the shop. I mean, it's a great tribute to him. They're awesome. I saw one at the track. Actually, that's when I met his wife for the first time last year at the Gold Cup.
Yep.
I see this woman sitting in front of me, and she's got this Bill Drake sweatshirt on. I'm like, wow. So I go, hey, where can I get one of them? And she goes, it's my husband's shop. And I'm like, huh. So I asked him the next day I went and bought one.
Wow.
And it's a great tribute to him. He's him and I, we weren't best of buddies, but every time I talk, he'd always spend the time to talk to me, and he sold me a lot of good parts at reasonable. He did work for me.
Yep.
And it was all good. And he was, a local legend.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He did a lot of stuff with very little. He was a family man back in the day when he did it.
Yeah, he definitely did. He was definitely big in the, let's call it, performance community in the Rochester area for sure. I mean, he did a lot of work for people around here.
If I understand it correctly, he still holds the A-gas record for speed.
Oh, really?
If the gas class was
still around?
Yeah. I keep looking to see if there's a listing of those standing records, but I'd have to probably write NHRA or somebody.
Yeah, right.
But no, so again, it shows it back in the day that just in our little area that, we had Drake, out of Rochester and some other guys, and we had, Zakia out of the Buffalo area and other guys, and, that were bigger than the national record right here in town, basically, and there's gassers all over the place.
It's cool.
The crime, and I'll call it a crime, the crime to a certain extent is the fact that those guys, they got more ink than what us drag racers get today.
Yeah.
But even then, they didn't get the amount of ink that was deserving of them.
Yes.
That's really a shame.
That's how I feel like with the thing that, Bill was, to a certain, I don't know where he stood on it, whether he didn't want people to know or he was very humble about it.
Yeah.
I'll say he didn't. I'm sure with his buddies, I know from stories that I was told later that him and his buddies used to go out to, I think, Indy well after the fact, like a boys' weekend or something like that. But no, it would have been nice to have, glean a lot of the stories. Because I know I've heard your Zakia interview stuff, and the stuff you hear out of those guys is just inspirational.
Oh yeah,
as I say it.
And darn well, there's a lot of those stories that don't get told on the air. It's like, don't really feel comfortable telling this in front of a camera, but when we turn the camera off, I got some pretty interesting fun stories to tell you.
So
So this car that's behind us is one of two that's in Tickle's garage. The other one is a Vega that's never been on the road, but it's never been raced either. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure how public he wants a lot of this stuff.
Oh, okay.
The guy does have an original Pro Stocker.
That's cool.
So, but it's a cool car in its own right.
Awesome.
Now, tell us about this car.
All right, this is a.
How much can you tell us about this car?
Well, again, he's a very private individual as far as that goes. So I can tell you, it's a car we built at the shop. All round tube, chassis, it's gonna fly. He only had it out a couple times since it's been done. So far, so good. The results are, him and I were out with it the last time. Had a transmission problem. It wouldn't go into reverse, and took the train. Couldn't find anything. Goes into reverse now. Took the transmission apart. Didn't find anything wrong. Put it all back together. Now it goes backwards. So hopefully we'll get it out early in the season here. Debug it. I know it's gonna go straight because of something he did with it. So we get it to go straight and then just tweak on it. When a car leaves my shop, I said I'm on a really safe suspension tune. I call it low and slow, depending on how you set up the 4-link in the back.
Sure.
The car will react slow, but down track be very stable at speed.
Right.
And so that's how it's leaving. He needs to get comfortable with the car, and then once he gets comfortable with that, then we'll slowly pull back until we get on where it hooks hard and is safe down track. But everybody has their comfort spot where we can pull back to and really get this car to fly. I think it's got great potential.
Now, what's this car having from a power plant standpoint?
Big block Chevy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what size or? We're not divulging.
Yeah.
We want to keep that a secret.
He wants.
Can you talk about how big it is?
No.
Okay. So, but it's a big black Chevy. We'll just leave it at that.
So
Probably somewhere more than 468 and less than 1,100.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
I will say it's a beautiful car. I've always been a fan of the Vegas. Not all of them, but I particularly like this year body style Vega.
Yeah.
And it's super cool.
Purple wagons,
that's
especially
right.
the 71s.
Yeah.
Almost hideous. He didn't hear it yet.
I would say
Everybody will see it.
Yeah, we're throwing stones at the moment for those people that don't know. But
hopefully one catches him right in the forehead.
Right. But yeah, this car is super cool. Super low slung to the ground.
Yeah.
Really, really nice car. Love the paint. Love the white stripe down the side. I know Tickle hasn't seen it yet, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be very, very happy when he sees the car.
He will be. He's a very good customer. Can't ask for better. And this is, I think, a dream of his to have something of this level.
Yep.
It's not a Bickle Pro Stocker, but
right.
The only Bickle Pro Stockers are Bickle Pro Stockers. So, but it's a decent car out of here and out of the shop. And again, I prefer to build them. I like the cars low on the ground.
Yeah. Yep.
They handle better, they work better, and they just look meaner.
That's absolutely true.
So I think he'll have good success with it. He's a good racer overall. He does. He was out of the sport for quite a few years, and he's just got back to it within the last couple years. And so it's like he was in a void. Let's say everything is almost new to him again, but yet he still knows. And back in the day, from what he says and what other people I know that know him say, he was one of the guys back then to beat.
Yep.
So I'm sure it'll come back to him, and it's already come. I've seen signs of it where. So we get him a good car under him and a fast car, and he'll enjoy the crap out of it.
Everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
But I will say that I would guess, and this is just a wild guess, knowing that Tickle is not a 20-year-old man any longer, that a lot of this is about the fun aspect of it, right?
Yeah. Although he is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
That's what the hush-hush is about everything. He doesn't like people knowing. Yeah, he's got a little of that old class stuff in him, old class racer
stuff.
stuff.
I totally get that. I know my dad, he wanted to win when we went out to the track, but when it really came down to it, the reason why he went out to the racetrack every weekend was because he enjoyed himself out there. Yeah. God forbid, you line up stage up next to him, right? You're going to try and tear your heart out while you're sitting there.
That's the way it should be.
But at the end of the day, it was about being out there, having fun, enjoying the ride, hanging out with his buddies, and those types of things. And So that's going to be a big part of it, is him just being back out of the track and being able to do those things again. I'm assuming that it's a power glide in the car.
Yep, got a nice power glide in it.
And what does it have? Is it a 4 9-inch in the back?
Yeah, we settled on a 9-inch.
You couldn't convince him to go with the Dana?
No, I'm I'm a very pragmatic and individual, and my take on it, I'll share what, since how we went down this road. 9 inches are great, but again, I also used to work for a company called the Gleason Works and learned a lot about gears while I was there.
Yep.
And if you start breaking stuff down, the Dana requires the least horsepower of the two, based on overall design.
Okay.
The Dana is about half the price and stronger even at that.
Right.
And the logic, there's that whole, well, if it's good enough for a pro stocker, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And my feedback back is, well, when you got a pro stocker, you come get me.
Yeah.
But if you're just, it comes back to, I consider myself a working man's chassis shop.
Yeah.
Just about anybody comes sees me. If you're working and you work with me, we'll get you into a race car, and you'll be surprised how easy it can be and affordable we can make it, or what we can do to get you there so you can afford to have something nice.
Yep.
And the Dana theory is part of it, is that, okay, people say they want to be able to change their gears quickly. And my question is, why? You're a bracket racer.
Right.
How often do you change gears?
Right.
If you're changing them between rounds, like a pro stocker, I get it. I understand. But if you're changing them once a year in your garage at home, why do you got to do it in 20 minutes?
Right.
So why do you have to, where I can spend, like $2,100 on a decent Dana with all good parts in it, that's almost indestructible. Why spend $3,800 on a 9-inch to get close to the same strength so I can change gears in 20 minutes?
Right.
And for instance, my truck has a Dana. It's got the floater set up in it, so and it's a all done up Dana. So because I may have a problem at the track with the horsepower level I'm running, blowing a set of gears, so I have 2 sets of Danas. I have 2 additional sets of gears that I set up. So I set them up, take it all out, put them back in the box with all the shims that I use.
Yeah.
Set up another one, boom. So I can, and again, not much longer than that, I could put a new set of gears in my Dana. Again, probably might not be the right logic, but it's mine, and it'll get me through. If it becomes a problem, we'll step up to something to support the horsepower I got, and probably a 9 inches in it either.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I have a Dana in the Corvette.
Yeah.
And the last time that I had the gears out of the Corvette, my dad was still alive, and he's been dead for 26 years.
Yeah.
So for the most part, now granted, I'm not putting 1,000 passes a year on the car, and I'm not hitting it with 1,500 horsepower. But for a car that's got 650 horse, and you go out and you put let's call it on average 50 runs a year on the car over 26 years. And I haven't heard anything. I better find some wood to knock on, but I haven't heard the first thing about
Careful,
any
Chris,
whines.
take your head off.
Yeah, I haven't heard any whines or grinding or anything else, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then you probably got 200 passes after you start hearing that.
Right. Yeah. So, from that standpoint, I think that logic is sound.
Yeah.
Like I said, on a particular event out at Empire, I'm not looking to change gears. If I go out and I bust the rear end all up, it's like, well, I'm putting it in the trailer and taking it home, so I have all week to fix it.
Yeah.
Usually once you kind of settle on a set of gears, whatever it might be, all right, this is the best ratio for me as a bracket racer, you're not changing it.
And that's as long as as long as you embrace and understand at the end of the day, and again, it only applies in certain aspects, that you're just a bracket racer. You're not insert favorite pro stock or pro mod driver here.
Right.
And you're not trying to keep up with them, it gets a little easier.
Yeah, sure.
So
but the only thing I could think would be the big convenience is, let's assume you traveled to Indy, for instance, and you broke a set of gears there. Now, granted, they're going to have manufacturers midway, so you can go buy a set of gears, but your options for finding somebody with a Ford 9-inch pumpkin already set up that you could borrow and throw in the car would probably be greater than trying to find somebody that had a set of gears, Dana set of gears laying around. But again, you could always run down manufacturers midway, and those guys, Richmond is usually there. You can just go buy a set. So, really not that big of a deal. But yeah, and like I said, it's a strong setup for sure.
Yeah. And then by the time you cut them down and do all the other stuff, again, just the difference in horsepower is consumption is so great that it overcomes the weight.
Yeah.
And honestly, weight I know is bad, but the weight's not really in the worst spot.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
So, yeah. So that's where I, just live with it. And
yeah, and I guess I didn't realize too that not being a gear expert like yourself working.
I'm not an expert. I just.
But I didn't realize that it
leaned on
took less power to drive a Dana gear set than it did the Ford.
Yeah, it comes down to basically if you look at the offsets of the pinion relative to the crown, and then the amount of number of teeth in contact and the amount of surface area in contact, it all becomes friction. Sliding on a Dana, because it's more centered, the teeth, there's fewer teeth in contact and less surface area. And then on a Ford, because it's so low, you have more teeth coming in and out, and they're sliding over the length of the tooth versus the face width of the tooth for a greater length of time. And then on top of that, the Dana's this great big cast iron embracing your bearings for your carrier. And on the 9-inch Ford, you have these two bearing yokes hanging out in space with nothing supporting them. So you get about a bunch of flex, and when you start flexing, you start moving the bearing around, start moving that stuff around, the gear changes position, gets in its unhappy places, even to the point where on the 9-inch Ford has that pinion support on the back side, and then they still have a ring gear support that goes in them as well, because you start folding over the crown. So when you start looking at it, on a Dana, you put a set of good caps on it, good bearings, good parts in it, it'll last forever. On a 9-inch, you have to bolster it with all these other things. Yeah. You got to through bolt a good aluminum center section that's through bolted with a ring gear support, and you'll get some life out of it. Well, geez, I just put 3 Band-Aids on it to get it to be good, to be usable.
Right.
So,
and that, folks, is why Fords are junk.
Yes. Exactly. That's the foundational element. Next, we talk transmissions. This is turning into a tech show.
We're not out to make friends today, huh?
Yeah. Friends are just expensive. It's like getting a lift. If you get a shop and you put in a lift, you know what you get? More friends.
All over. Yeah.
Or a pickup or an enclosed trailer.
Yeah. That's why you get a gooseneck.
Yeah.
You can't borrow it because you can't pull it.
Yeah.
And I'm busy.
Now, is this a 1432 on the back of this car, or bigger?
On this car, it's just a little 3113, I think. On
oh, okay.
I want to get it out to. I want to get it up to 32.
Yep.
Being that it's the rear end on this car, the frame width is only 19 inches in the back.
Okay.
Which is pretty narrow.
That's pretty
to
narrow.
Hide shocks and suspension parts. Because right now the 4-link is already up against the center of the rear end, or the center of the rear axle assembly. And I compare, because the car does sit low, and unless I want to do major body modifications, there's really not a lot of room for a bigger tire.
Right.
We just did, so the car just came out of paint, just got it back here a couple weeks ago, and in that process we replaced the quarters, and I think I gained a little room there.
Yep.
So I'm going to try to see if we can't sneak a 1432 under there, but
I know the pain all too well because the Corvette, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of room back there. So yeah, it's for me in particular, it's like I can really only use a 12-inch wide wheel.
Yeah.
Once you go to the 14-inch wide wheel, the cross section of the tire gets too wide, and it wants to rub on the inner frame rails in the back, and but that's the way it goes. But is this a stock wheelbase, or did you stretch this?
It's modified slightly, like an inch. Not horribly changed. Just pushed it out a little bit to give them a little more foot. Because again, when you start, so we go back to that early Pro Stockers had an early version of a 4-link that had a really short top bar and a longer bottom bar, and they didn't work well because of the geometry. It changes the pinion angle greatly, and they didn't work that well. And the other problem is a Vega. There's nothing. behind the seat. There's nowhere for the driver to sit if you put in a what's more we'll call a modern 4-link. And that's why I went to ladder bars. Well, this is a 4-link car that so the 4-links there, it takes up 25 1/8 inches, basically from the front where you mount the 4-link to the center line of the axle. You just it's consumed. I don't want to put a shorter bar in. I want a car that works versus a car that looks good, let's say. So I did push the front ahead, and I think it might be 1.5 inches to give him more. Fortunately for him, he's not that tall. So we, through some seat position, he's comfortable in the car. You don't recline so much in this car. You do sit straight up. That's why we did a poured seat. So he sits in place and he doesn't move around. And he has plenty of leg room, and he's comfortable. He can run the controls. But then to do that, I keep the motor, it's not across the board generally, but a good bracket setup is I keep the motor at the spindle center line, the front of the motor spindle center line, and that's a good place as any for a typical bracket car, especially big block, and so that gives him enough foot room and everything, and that by doing that I pushed the wheels about 1.5 inches forward. The front end on this, I bought a 6-inch stretch front end. But we only use that little bit.
Cut it down.
You buy it and then you cut it to the desired length, and it all come out well. Because on the Vega aspect, the 6-inch front end, they look like a semi-funny car if you put them on. To me, there's also a little aesthetically pleasing. It's that 2 taillight thing again.
And I have to say, I never liked I've certainly seen plenty of the Vegas that had the stretch front ends on them, and I don't like the way they look. They deviate too much from stock, in my opinion, and they make them look weird.
It's all about there's the subtle things that you make the changes, and then I get big into making the truck wheelbase is stock. But everything's 6 inches off.
You just moved everything.
And even so when you do these cars is by where you place the wheels within the wheel openings can make the same car look 3 different ways.
That's right.
So for instance, if you take the rear wheels and pull them forward and the back wheels pull them back, the car looks like bunches up like a bulldog, kind of cartoonish, and it's the same car. You don't change anything else. Don't change the ride height. Don't change anything. If you take the car and put the rear wheels to the back of the wheel opening and the front wheels to the front of the wheel opening, the car looks long and lankier. But if you take the wheels and the rear wheels and push them forward, and the front wheels and push them forward, and nothing more, the car looks like it's going fast sitting still.
That's right.
So that tends to be what I do. And then the other thing that I do is like this car, I cut 3 inches off the rocker panels. So I lessen the overall profile. And so that again, so you get that raked back look of the tire position, and now I got so the thing and that's basically what I did with my truck as well.
That's interesting. I've never thought of that, because I have seen some of the Vegas where they haven't cut the rocker panel, and I have to say, I guess it just never dawned on me. I thought that at that point that that's probably the way that they constructed it, but it was probably the fact that they didn't cut that down that just made it look so dang big.
They look thick in the middle,
really thick.
And it works. We're looking at a Camaro here. It works on them. It works on any. You just again, it's not a performance thing. It's aesthetics. It's what set things apart thing, and it's a complete thought, let's say.
So what do you have in the shop right now? I mean, somebody watching, listening, they want to have Bill do some work for them.
Right now, to be honest with you, I got 2 street rods in there. I've gone in, I've opened my arms to street rodders. Not that they're bad people, but they just seem to like small block Chevys. There, I got the X nice and sharp, and I'll have nothing but Mopar people in my shop here quickly. But no, so there's there's a car I got to do a quick chassis drag car, like a certain purple Vega that will remain nameless. I got to do some roll cage upgrades on, and like I say, what else is there? There's the 2. I got a street car that I got to put a Mustang 2 front end under, and then there's this complete. It's going to be a very, very nice street rod, and it's going to be unique in many ways. That it's a 28 Chevrolet Huckster, and what that is it's a delivery vehicle from 1928.
Okay.
And we're making it into a what I call a businessman street rod.
Okay.
And I mean, there's no everything. Again, it kind of goes with the flow. It's the way I do things in general. So subtle changes to we've chopped the top just enough to make it look good. Because before you think of a top hat, think of the cars out of the 20s, anyways.
Yep.
So they're really high above the dashboard.
That's right.
So we took enough out of this so that you can't tell it's been chopped.
Right.
But it just has better eye appeal.
Yep.
We're painting it, you know, it's not flashy colors. It's got some nice subtle colors that work together. And then, and it's just, everything just has a certain level of, and I don't want to call it refinement, but because again, I want cars that are being driven.
Sure.
I don't want, you know, these, you know, some guys make some beautiful street rods that then just get trailer queened around and
They're magazine pieces, museum pieces, right?
And that's why I also like using paints like my truck is, you know, Dodge truck colors.
Right.
So if it gets scratched or something, somebody's going to mix up some colors. We can paint it. This car, I don't know what color black it is, but it's black.
Black.
And so we just used, again, corporate colors on the street rod, and we're just doing stuff so the guy can enjoy the car.
Right.
And again, and also it has a theme. It has this, I call it double take, because I'm doing some, not big woodworking guy.
Okay.
But I just got into doing some stuff and so this truck, it's an old car, it's a 28, so it's a wood frame skinned in steel. Yep. And so we made this, the way this thing was, think of like a van body, only not. It has like a wooden Surrey top on it is what it came with, and then it has like a front driver's compartment, and then the back's wide open, but there's no back wall, or was no back wall between that and the cargo area. It was just, you know, 20s pragmatic being.
Yep.
This was a delivery vehicle. They don't care if the milk cans hit the driver in the back of the head back then.
Purpose built.
But so anyway, so we put a wall back there, but now you have to carry that theme through. So the inside of the cab area is all this oak. That's okay. It's 1928. I was looking at this or talking about this the other. This vehicle's from 1928. It's all the original oak, and I started thinking, how old is that piece of oak? Because the truck's 100 years old.
Right.
Right. So you go, wow, and there's all this oak still there. So now I got to make this frame that matches, that looks like it came from there.
From a 200-year-old tree, right?
And I was able to do it using spray paints and oak.
Yep.
And then I found some shellac.
Yep.
And I don't want to make it like I just made this fine piece of furniture, but I was stunned that I was able to make this brand new piece of oak look like
it's old.
It's been in this truck for 100 years.
Right.
And again, so with these spray paint features, so the accent color on this vehicle is going to be orange.
Okay.
So we're going to put a nice little orange pinstripe on it, and it's like a cream color. Main body fenders are in black, and then the wheels are going to be a bright orange. So then we're going to do accents. There's piping on the seats in orange. So I'm going to do this treat in the bed. The whole back of this truck is oak. There's a small oak forest missing somewhere because of the way this truck was built originally and the way we're going to do it now. So what I'm going to try is we're going to tint just the grain in orange.
Oh.
And then shellac over it. So it doesn't beat you over the head. It's all like the whole theme of, like I said, on this thing is to look at it and know something isn't normal or typical or what you'd expect, but not be able to go, oh, there it is, and have to study it. So, and again, that's why I get nothing done in my shop. So we're going to try that treatment. We're going to do some samples first, see how it shellacks out, see how it looks, and then if not, then we'll just go back and make it look like. Because again, I don't want half of this thing, meaning the inside of this truck, to look, because it is a 100-year-old interior of a truck, because we didn't refinish the wood. So now I have to make the outside match the inside. It doesn't have to look weathered and all beat up and scratched, but it doesn't need to look like I just took it off the shelf.
Yeah, either. That's right.
So So yeah, that's what else? And then there's, like I say, I think that's it for right now.
Wow.
I got some promises coming, but we'll see.
Well,
More street rod people.
No, I don't think I have any other street rod stuff coming. I think this the street rod business may come. I'll embrace it if it shows, but the drag stuff's cool. It's two different logics. Not that it's either one is better than the other one. The street rod cars, I put the same level of effort I put in the drag cars as far as squareness and integrity of strength in certain areas.
I would expect nothing else.
But it's just, I don't angst so much over it, let's say, you know.
Sure.
Well, you know, someone's not necessarily going to be going 150 miles an hour and a quarter mile in it, right? So,
yeah, or try to get from here to the other side of the building today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So on the street, again, we got it all. You know, the steering, all the suspension geometries are cool on it. Probably better than a lot of them, just because I apply one to the other, and they'll be safe that way. But it's just the whole, and it might just be me. It's just the way I angst over silly stuff. And it'll have working brake lights and backup lights.
Now, is the GRS's series or schedule all done for the year?
It's not all done. We have our points races out. We're still working on some of the side races. I haven't talked to Thompson, but we always go to Thompson. I got to get on the phone with them and some other stuff that we do. And we're trying to do some, give the racers more opportunity to race with the GRS in some fit form or fashion. But we do have the 8 races. They're on the Empire schedule already.
Yep.
Other than that, things are looking pretty good. Our membership still doing good and strong. Sponsors, we got a lot of our sponsors came back. We need a few more. Anybody interested?
Could always use a few more.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a line, and we have everything. And as you know, all our races are sponsored. We have 3 classes, 8 races. That's 24 sponsors.
Just race sponsors.
Yeah, that's just to pay the racers if they win.
Right.
So, right now, I'm praying for. I think I need either 8 sponsors or 2.5 rainouts.
Right.
Pick one, you choose.
Right.
Other than that, we got our series sponsor came back, Wild Rides.
Yep.
He was with us last year. And as far as I know, our trophy sponsor came back because we give away very nice and cool trophies.
Custom-made trophies.
Yep.
The other ones are gorgeous too.
And as always, Dan Delaney's back. He's been with us since the beginning, and he's coming back again this year and providing us with everything he does, all that cool stuff. Because because he does it for you guys. All this one-of-a-kind stuff that these racers get out of these groups that Dan does, and that you're not going to flip through a catalog and see this stuff anywhere.
Right. Yeah, I will say, even he's helped me immensely with Western Super Rod Association, even just for the plaques that we give out to the weekly event winners, right? He's helped out immensely with that, and they come out of a shop. I forget the name of the place, but they come out of a shop in Buffalo that does them. But Dan lays them all out and sends all the artwork over to him, and it's like, he's always apologizing. Oh, gee, sorry, I couldn't do more. And it's like, Dan, do you realize how much this means to me that you're able to do all this stuff for me? I mean, he really helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
So,
we're the same as the GRS. Is just like, he knocks it out of the park for us every time. You're never going, I wish he hadn't, or wish he did.
Right.
It's always what he gives us is far exceeds the expectation.
I don't know how he is with you. I mean, I'm not the greatest with regards to scheduling things.
Yeah.
So usually what happens is a week or 2 weeks before a race, he's usually calling me and saying, hey, don't you have a race coming up? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, well, you haven't talked to me about plaques or anything. I'm like, oh, yeah. Could you take care of those for me? Yeah, all right.
Well, fortunately for Dan, we kind of we do bulks. We do he does our decals, our member decals, and all that stuff, and we usually get most of that out early, so he doesn't have to do. He's not doing. He does our plaques and stuff at the end of the season, so he gets a little rest from us every once in a while. But he does like our signs. He did get a bulk order here mid-season last year. Hopefully we're going to have not that issue this year.
Right.
So.
Well, if anyone's looking to sponsor a great racing series,
you can get a hold of
GasserRacingSeries.com.
I wasn't sure where he was going with that. I was going to jump in with Gasser, but I thought maybe he was going to talk about his first.
No, I was going to step on him real quick if he did. Yeah, and the ones that I don't want, I'll send to you. All right.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
If you want to sponsor a great racing series, look at the Western New York Super Rod Association. Once we're full.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I will say that, last year we scaled our sponsorship back, and I'm going to slowly expand it again.
Yeah.
But, you need to make the sponsors happy. And
yeah.
if you it's great. It's all well and good to take on a whole bunch of sponsors and take their money.
Yeah.
But if you don't deliver for them, they're not going to be happy at the end of the day. So that's, like I said, that was why last year I really scaled it back with our series, just because I felt like I wasn't providing the value that I really wanted to all of the sponsors. So, yeah, I mean, and we were lucky. I mean, we run a much smaller schedule than you guys do, so we were able to do that. But overall, I mean, you guys run a great series. I mean, you get a big following, a lot of cars out of the track, but on a great show.
Thank you.
Sponsors would definitely get their money's worth by teaming with GRS for sure.
We're trying to. I'm not bright enough to just be happy with what I got. I'm trying to. I want the GRS to be the biggest, baddest nostalgia drag racing series out there.
Well, if you're not already, you're certainly well on your way.
Is that why things take a little longer in the shop?
That's another reason. It's like, well, this weekend's, to be quite honest, I spent a week cleaning 2 cars, and the customer actually, it shows some. The relationship I build with customers. Now, the guy that was here with me last night is the guy that owns that 28 Chevy.
Oh, okay.
He spent a week with me this last week helping me clean cars.
Wow.
Well, his car sat over there, and I just would walk by and go, yeah, when I go back to this, I'm going to do this to it. So I have, I would say most, if not all of my customers, we build a friendship and a relationship, and some are understanding. There's some that I abuse in the sense that their cars are there too long.
Sure.
And they understand so far. I got one that he understands, and I don't know why. But he's, I got to get his stuff going. And with the way I run it, and this is why it works out, because it's all give and take, is that, you can't, when you've done something that, I don't want to say wrong, but like this guy, his car's been in the shop too long. Well, I can't. I got to give back. I got to do something back. So it turns into, making people happy.
Sure.
Not only provide them what they think they're getting, but actually give them a little bit back. And
that's right.
Sure.
That's how I'll always have something to do, I think.
Like working tail lights and backup lights.
Yeah.
So nice little extras that you don't think about, that when somebody says, hey, you know what, while I had your car, I did this stuff to it too.
And thank God there's no blue dots in them.
That's right.
Yeah. But no, and that's what I do. So I am kind of, so as I describe it, as a kid, I used to build car models.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 300.
Wow.
I lived out in the weeds, and it's nothing to do. Back then, models were $1.25.
Yep.
Sure.
And now I just build big ones, but I can't, I would like to be able to afford to build one, put it on the shelf, and build another one.
Right.
But now I can't, so I have to have people come pay me to do it.
It's tough to let them leave sometimes, though, isn't it?
But and then to a certain point, all these cars are really, they're mine.
Right.
And
Right.
You just paid for them.
That's right. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I work with a lot of customers, but I never just blindly. I never let a customer. Very seldom do I let a customer just tell me this is how it's going to be, unless I agree with them.
Right.
But we talk through it, and I'm trying to. There was a guy here just met here today, and I'm talking to him, and he's telling me what he's going to do. And I give them my pragmatic logic that, because I'll have customers come in and say, oh, I got this, so I want you to do this, and then when I get a bigger motor, we can go and do this. And I'm like, well, and I know chances are they'll come back for that second one, but
sure.
I coach and I advise that we can do that, but you're going to throw 3/4, if not all, of this away when you go to do that. So why don't we do that now? And it does sound like a sales pitch, but at the same time, as I was advising this guy today, that okay, if he wants to move forward in 2 years, well, you're going to have to do this. And then when you get there, you're going, well, I got to do more chassis work and buy this motor.
Right.
And my decision, or what I was telling him, was like, when you got to buy a refrigerator, none of us want to buy a refrigerator, or want to come up with the money when you buy the refrigerator or whatever. But 6 months later, it's old news. You came up with the money or whatever, and it's behind you, and you move on.
Yep.
The same is kind of true here. That if you think you're going to grow, have a plan out there.
Yep.
Build that, because I can make too much chassis go quick, but I can't make not enough chassis go as quick.
Right. That's
so
right.
spend that, because as I was describing to him, a rear end. 52-inch wide rear end costs the same as a 36-inch wide rear end.
That's right.
The ladder bars are 4-link that go under that same car. Don't cost any different.
Right.
The only difference is really the amount of tubing and some labor.
Yep.
Spend it up front. Put your small, lesser horsepower motor in there, and have fun. And then when it comes time for a motor, you're buying a motor.
Right.
You're not buying.
Yeah, I will say that when I started off redoing the Corvette, it started off very similar to what this project was. Now, granted, I had a better base to start with, but I took it to Pat Budd and said, hey, all I want to do is, the floors in this thing are really, really wrecked, so I just want to replace all the tin work in it. And it was like, all right, well, when was the last time you changed the cage in the car? It's like, well, it's been a while. It's like, well, you probably should update the cage, too. If you're going to take all the floors out, the cage is right there. If you were thinking about doing that, now's the time to do it, right? And it's like, oh, and by the way, while you're doing this, it's like you got to pull all the electronics out. So if there was stuff that you wanted to upgrade, and it's like, well, there is. Well, then you should replace all that stuff now. And it really wasn't until we got into the project and I sat down and talked with somebody about it, an expert really, that they were telling me, okay, I wasn't planning on spending all of this money, but if I'm going to do this, it really makes sense to do this now. Otherwise, I'm just, like I said, you're just going to throw that money away down the road 3-5 years when you decide to do something else. It's like, all right.
And it may prevent you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you may say, I don't want to spend,
That's right.
All I want to do is put a motor in this thing. I got to do this.
Right.
And so you just get rid of those little hurdles up front, and kind of it's easier to sit and say to do, but that's my advice. So that's why I sit with customers and talk them through the process, and we talk through, and at the end of the day, we agree on a direction, and we go down that direction, and it's just trying to get people to sometimes not think with their wallet versus think with what, think about the best and reasonable plan. And that's how I think I build a lot of the trust and relationships I get with my customers, because it's not about me just trying. I know there's shops out there that you walk in, I want the car and the motor in the trunk because it'll hook better.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they do it.
Right.
I'm not that guy.
Right.
It's more I do sweat the physics and the other engineering details. Okay, here's
Trusted
what we got to do.
Right?
Yeah. And there's been lots of times that I've plain old cost myself a sale, let's say.
Oh, sure.
And I'd rather do that and not be the jerk than do it. And then again, 6 months down the road, the guy, after he starts running the car and it works for crap, he's not going to be happy with me.
That's right.
And no matter what you do, then you're toast.
Yeah, you're trying to do the right thing for them, and in some cases, I'm in sales, I will say, and I try to be a value-added advisor to my customers, and there's plenty of cases where I can't convince a customer that they need to spend more money to do something like this because this is the way they should do it. And in those cases, okay, I walk away, and it's like you can go do it another way. And is that the best way to do it? Well, I'm not going to say it is or it isn't. But, like I said, you try to help somebody and steer them with the expertise that you have to say this is really the best way for you to do this. And I realize that this is not what you were planning on when you started off, but and I think you have the advantage too of that. You're a working guy like all the rest of us, right? So you understand that, hey, you know what? I realize that money's tight, and none of us are independently wealthy, and so
that refrigerator's going to need buying.
Right, that's right.
And these are kind of my signature. So when like you look at that car, I want you to then, when you see me, not point and laugh, because there's a lot of reasons to point and laugh, but I don't want the cars that I do to be one of them. Usually it's because my fly's down or something.
They're nice pieces for sure, Bill. You did a nice job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So how we doing?
It's it?
Not the longest show we've done.
No. I still. So you want to hear why my trucks are Plymouths?
Yeah, go for it.
Going right back to why it's a truck. So, anyways, Plymouths.
Yeah.
As a kid, again, I'm very almost ADD on things. I don't like to admit to it, but it just so as a kid, so I put Plymouth on the back of my pickup truck umpteen years ago. And I'm also a tweaker as far as like people. I like it's that head scratching, what's different about this thing. So when I grew up as a kid, my family, which most families are oriented, car line style, there was a Chrysler family or a Mopar family. So, but Plymouths were always, your Plymouth Dusters, your Plymouth Barracudas were all like the hot race cars.
Yep.
Mom and Dad drove Dodges, your four-door wagons, and Grandma and Grandpa showed up in the Chrysler, the Newport or
That's right.
something like that. So I'm
New
driving,
Yorker.
Yeah, and I'm out there driving a pickup truck, and it's a Dodge. Well, I was 20 years old. I don't want to drive a Dodge. I want a Plymouth. Well, Plymouth used to go in the direct connection catalog. They sold these great stickers. They were $7. Put it on the tailgate. Whoo! I got a Plymouth. So this one day, back then I was working, and every day at 3 o'clock we'd go up to the diner and get coffee. And I come out of the diner one day, and there's these two old guys, and they're standing behind my truck, and they're ready to go at it about whether it's a Dodge or a Plymouth. Because Plymouth used to make trucks way back when, and in the early 80s, 79, 80, the Plymouth Trail Duster and Plymouth van, full-size van line was out. And here's this perfect corporate-looking decal, and it was placed just like it should have been on the back of the truck. And these two guys are just they're just swearing at each other, going, oh my God, back and forth. And I walk up and they go, is this a Dodge or a Plymouth? I said, looks like it says Plymouth to me. I just got in the truck and drove away. But at the racetrack, when I started racing it, it was Canadian. It was rare. It was Australian. It was everything but what it was.
All sorts of stories, right?
Yeah, and that's so tying all the stories together is, so my business is called Win Racing, which stands for What's in a Name. And it's again, there's a little behind the scenes. So did you guys know where What's in a Name was probably originated from, that phrase?
I do not.
William Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
Is a rose a rose? And it says, what's in a name? So I use that side of me to say, hey.
I flunked English, by the way.
I'm not just some greasy car monkey guy. I've actually read some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Granted, at gunpoint for most of it. But on the other side, so my trucks, they're named Plymouths. And, they're not rare. They're not Canadian. They're not... What's in a name? It's just a sticker.
Right.
And when you break it down to an acronym, what more could you want for an acronym for a racing organization?
Sure.
So it's just, again, that whole thinking things through, and how can
I like it.
So that's just for giggles.
At the end of the day, I mean, really, who cares?
Exactly.
I mean, we joke about the Mopars versus the Chevys versus the Fords, right?
Well, no, I'm not joking.
I think I think before you sat down, we were talking about the tractors, right? It's like not my thing, but I can appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into them, right?
Yeah.
And from a I don't want to say a drag car, but just from a car standpoint,
What's it matter? It doesn't matter. That one wouldn't have a bow tie. That one wouldn't have a gold line. That wouldn't have. Well, those people are just incorrect.
That's still a cool car. That's still a cool car. That's still a cool car. Whether that's a Chevy, or that's a Ford or a Mopar.
I can appreciate the fact that Camaro looks original and it's a '67. Yeah, that's pretty cool to come across it.
Yeah, he bought that car new.
Oh yeah. Oh, so he's owned it this whole time. God, this guy's no teenager.
Yeah.
The guy, I believe it owns it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which we were told he's a little camera shy, so probably wouldn't want to come on and talk about it. But yeah, we definitely want.
Well, I don't know him, so I can say, look at him. Is it shyness or fear?
Right. Yeah, we definitely want to hear the story behind that car for sure.
No. Why not?
Yeah,
I know a guy. Paints cars black, really good.
yeah. Who was it that told us? I guess it's had one paint job in its life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to think if it was Mike when we were off air, but yeah, it was Randy that told us. So yeah, I guess it's had one paint job in its life, and but yeah, that's pretty cool. It's been a one-owner, brand new 1967 Camaro. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, because that is kind of hard to find anymore.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everybody's restoring everything. They're going to be storing rocks and grass pretty soon.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure there's some neat stories behind that vehicle for sure.
Yeah, even if, and again, just looking at it, even if it's, for lack of a term, a nothing car, meaning just could have been a 6-cylinder or just a little 327, not RS. It's still cool that it's out there, because that's the only real way to find out how they really looked like back then.
Right.
I mean, for the most, I'm sure there's been some, but again, those cars, no matter what the brand back then, they had more charisma and character than nowadays. Even cars are, as I tell everybody, I fell in love with cars the very first time I rode in one, and now you look in parking lots and I gotta really go look at the emblems and see what the hell and who made them. And generally I don't care.
I will say that I appreciate the comfort and convenience of my vehicles today, right? I mean, my newest vehicle is a 2016 Chevy Traverse. I am not going to look back 20 years from now and be like, wow, that was one cool car, right?
You're going to probably forget you owned it.
Right. I mean, like I said, comfortable, yes. Utilitarian, yes. From that standpoint, it's great. But, yeah, that is not going to have, it's not going to be in the annals of automotive history by any means.
Well, it's a Chevy, so it's in the annals or something.
I opened myself up wide for that one, didn't I? Yeah.
Well, that's the rumor.
Yeah. Hey, you're the director. I'm just the color guy. I mean,
everybody was talking about, there's this, that problem, whatever. We didn't get these cars, we didn't get those cars. I'll tell you what, the month before, there's plenty of people to talk to, and there's been a ton of foot traffic.
Oh, yeah.
He's very busy.
Yeah, it's been constant. I was thinking at one point that, no, maybe we could turn the camera around and, basically have it on the cars, and it could be on the cars for a matter of, 5 minutes straight, but no way. Because there's people walking by constantly. Which is nice. It's really nice to see. I'm glad everybody came out and.
The weather affected things a little bit. South Butler's going to have 5 cars. We're going to have 6 with the gassers. We couldn't make all those cars align appropriately. It's just what it is.
Yeah. But there's still a good contingent of cars out here.
I don't. I said something to Mike earlier. I don't know where we would have put 6 cars.
Right. Yeah, I mentioned that to Chris earlier today. That. I mean, we have to go down around JCPenney down there because, otherwise there's not enough room really. And, nobody really wants to be in one of the empty stores because people don't generally go in there. So, it's nice to be out in on the main roadway here. Main thoroughfare, not really a road, I guess.
Yeah. So our schedule, we're looking at being on this Thursday, right? Just our market schedule for studio editions.
So. It's either 8th and 22nd, or you're gone the 15th. I'm gone the 29th. So I think that is what we're going to do. So we're going to do another show. Be 3 weeks in a row here, basically. So that's okay. I got some feelers out for some good guests for the next show. So.
All right, not a problem.
Sure he will.
Every day, so back in North Park, Square.